Chapter 689. Maybe it was because they hadn't talked for a long time. The little girl seemed a little uncomfortable. Yuhua's eyes were a little red. Flag Master, we broke the seal and summoned you. The little girl went into a daze for a very long time. Her gaze turned from perplexed to liveliness, and the smile on her face became deeper and deeper. Yuhua, the little girl cried out in surprise and threw herself into Yuhua's arms at a strange speed, as if she loved her very much. Yuhua gently stroked the little girl. Flag Master, we are finally together again. The little girl nodded and looked at the scarecrow, Wild Sand, who was at the side. She also pounced on him. Big idiot, I missed you so much. Quang Sha's strange face actually revealed a smile, which was even more horrifying. After leaving Quang Sha's embrace, the little girl said to the air, White Bones, I missed you very much. White Bones also wants to be the Flag Master, said the voice in the air. The little girl laughed happily and pounced towards Luo Ho. Hee, everyone is finally out. Luo Ho smiled and patted the Flag Master's shoulder. The little girl immediately pounced at Blue Sky Hong. It's so good to have you guys here. I can play again. Flag Master, you can't always think about playing around, Yuhua said respectfully. This made the little girl a little depressed. Why can't I play? I just want to play. It seemed that this Flag Master hadn't grown up yet. Her personality was even more immature than Yizizi's, only knowing how to play. 5 flags naturally knew Flag Master's personality. Seeing that Flag Master was no different from before, the 5 of them were very happy. Flag Leader, you have to listen to us. Otherwise, we will ignore you. Yuhua smiled gently like a mother. Hearing such a threat, the little girl immediately pouted her little mouth, looking very unhappy, the kind that couldn't be coaxed. I'm hungry. The little girl pouted her little mouth and said. Luo Ho chuckled, Flag Master, let's go home and cook. Okay. I want Big Idiot to cook. The little girl clapped her hands excitedly and even jumped up and down. What kind of demeanor did she have? Quang Sha nodded with a strange smile. Luo Ho took out something from his cosmos sack and threw it forward. Boom boom boom. An earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded, and resplendent white smoke appeared. When the white smoke dissipated, an endless staircase appeared before the 6 of them. Above the staircase was a palace. A huge signboard was erected on top of the stairs. Nan Wu Chi. The little girl leaped onto Tsung Kong Hong's shoulder, and the 6 of them walked up the stairs. The 6 of them moved extremely quickly, reaching the top of the stairs in less than a breath's time. From here, they could see the galaxy directly, and it was a beautiful sight. The little girl said in a daze, So beautiful, I really like this place. Quang Sha respectfully said, Flag Master, I'll go cook first. Big Idiot, hurry up. I'm very hungry, said the little girl as she rubbed her belly. Yes, Flag Master. Luo Ho, go and pull out the table. We'll sit here and eat. The little girl continued to give orders. Yes. Flag Master. The eyes of the little girl who was sitting on Tsung Kong Hong's shoulder became deep. She mumbled, I wonder if there are any more powerful opponents. Flag Master, there will be one, Yuhua said softly. That's good, hug, the little girl stretched out her hands towards Yuhua. Yuhua smiled sweetly, then hugged onto the Flag Master. The little girl's name was Kai Yun. Right now, in Voidless Realm, Qinya had already finished cooking, and the whole family was currently enjoying a sumptuous dinner. Just that, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji didn't seem to be that happy. Wasn't it all because of the sudden appearance of Nan Wu Chi? Nan Wu Chi was a terrifying existence from the prehistoric era. For him to suddenly appear in this world was like a bug. Furthermore, the current situation was even more serious. This kind of anomaly had already spread to every corner of the world. Everyone in the world knew that the anomaly of a divine dragon pulling a coffin had appeared in China. One after another, everyone expressed their curiosity and wanted to get to the bottom of it. However, most of them were just watching from the sidelines. In any case, this matter doesn't concern us, so why should we get involved in it? Right now, all of the pressure was on Voidless Realm. If Qing Tiandi didn't act impulsively today, this would have been the best opportunity for him. Unfortunately, Qing Tiandi chose to fight against Yi Hua alone. Mom, why are you only eating? Yen will help you get some food. Yi Yen stood on the stool and helped his mother get some food. Qingya came back to her senses and said with a gentle smile, Yen, is so obedient. Mom, don't worry, Dad will be able to handle it. Yi Yen worshipped his father brainlessly. No matter how strong the enemy was, his father would always be able to defeat the enemy. Qingya looked towards her husband and discovered that Yi Hua had a gloomy look on his face. This was a situation that had never happened before. Yi Hua knew that Qingya was looking at him, so he didn't say anything and continued eating his meal silently. It was as if he couldn't win. Dong Wang Baiji placed down the bowl in her hand. After thinking for a bit, she decided not to say anything and continued eating her meal. Looking at her big sister and the Empress's worried look, Qing Yutong felt that it was funny. It has already been so long, and the two of you still don't understand brother-in-law? He is clearly just pretending, he just wants the two of you to worry a bit. The two of you are really idiots, or rather, the IQ of a pregnant woman is 0. After eating, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji went to rest early, and they even dragged Yi Hua to sleep early. Yi Hua knew that the two of them had something to talk about. Under the resentful gaze of the two children, Yi Hua accompanied his wife to sleep. The three of them laid on the spacious bed, and the atmosphere was a bit stifling. Donghuang Baiji took the lead and asked, Yi Hua, tell me the truth, can you do it or not? That's right, we are always worried about you. Qingya followed up and said. If her husband wasn't confident, they were prepared to think of another way. Yi Hua let out a breath, then said faintly, what? You two became so terrified after meeting a strong opponent, you two truly disappoint me. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji just didn't want Yi Hua to take any risks. After all, Yi Hua was the pillar of the family, and the father of 4 children. If something were to happen to Yi Hua, how were they going to continue living? Yi Hua. Don't make fun of us, we are really worried about you. Qingya had a depressed look on her face. It has been a long time since she felt like this. Yi Hua patted on the shoulders of his 2 wives, can the two of you have more confidence in me? It seems like I am going to lose right now. Smile for us to see then. Donghuang Baiji said seriously. Ever since the appearance of Nanwiki, her husband had never smiled, and his face had always been tense. Yi Hua's confidence was their confidence, and her husband was the sky in their hearts. Right now, even the sky was dispirited, how could they be happy? Chapter 690. However, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji didn't believe their husband at all, and thought that he was comforting them. This time, Yi Hua was at his wit's end. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have scared them. Seems like I shot myself in the foot again, I still have to coax them. Alright, talk less, kiss more. After finished speaking, Yi Hua hugged the Empress into his embrace and tasted her soft lips. After tasting the Empress, Yi Hua began tasting Qingya's cherry lips. It has been a long time since I kissed my wives, and I'm feeling a bit excited. Qingya felt her husband's action and said bashfully, Yi Hua, what are you doing, Shu? I'm making you two feel comfortable. Qingya couldn't help but moan, and a feeling of satisfaction emerged from the bottom of her heart. Donghuang Baiji looked at the 2 people beside her blankly. They actually did it in front of me. Yi Hua hugged the Empress into his embrace and kissed her lightly. Don't think about those things, it's fine as long as we are happy. Yi Hua Donghuang Baiji was extremely bashful. I actually let a wolf into my house tonight. When that feeling of satisfaction appeared, some of the vexing things immediately disappeared. Yi Hua was also quite satisfied. I finally completed one of my life's biggest goals. The day that I have been looking forward to has finally arrived. This is all thanks to Nan Wuqi, you two really are my lucky stars. After comforting both of his wives, Yi Hua was also satisfied. I finally became a real man for once, and I feel pretty good. While hugging onto his two wives who were in deep sleep, Yihua silently thought of Nan Wuqi. Interesting, this time around, I won't be disappointed. Early morning, Yihua slowly opened his eyes, and the beautiful women beside him were no longer there. The Empress is definitely dealing with Voidless Realms matters. Although Voidless Realm isn't big, there are still a lot of matters waiting for Donghuang Baiji's orders every day. Qinya is definitely preparing breakfast for everyone. You woke up? Quickly come out and eat breakfast. Qinya walked over with a gentle smile, and there was even a blush on her face, making her look extremely beautiful. Yihua hooked his finger at Qinya, looking very flirtatious. Qinya rolled her eyes at her husband, then walked over leisurely. Yihua held on to Qinya's small hand, then slightly exerted force and pulled Qinya into his embrace, then kissed her. Qinya, why are you so charming? Yihua laughed lightly. Qinya said petulantly, I let you have your way, you bastard. Haha. Yihua laughed out loud. I like Qinya's coquettish look the most. You are still laughing? Last night was just an exception, in the future, don't even think about it. Qinya said bashfully, and couldn't help but pinch Yihua a bit. What a man who gets carried away. Yihua's expression sank, it's not up to you all to decide. Alright, you're the boss. Can't you get up? No. After speaking, Yihua pressed down onto Qinya and carefully tasted his wife's cherry lips. Father, mother, you all, Donghuang Li and Yi Yen stood at the doorway and covered their eyes with their hands. Seeing that their parents still haven't come out, they ran into the doorway and shouted at their parents, and immediately after, they saw their parents kissing on the bed. Hearing the child's voice, Qinya hurriedly pushed away her husband who was infatuated with her, then fiercely glared at her gluttonous husband and said lightly, It's all your fault, being seen by the children. Yihua smiled embarrassedly and didn't take it to heart. After putting on his clothes, Yihua walked out of the doorway and coincidentally saw the Empress returning. When Donghuang Baiji saw her husband, she immediately recalled what happened last night, and her beautiful face immediately became bright red. These two women, no matter how many times I have done it, they are always so shy, as if it was their first time. How is the situation today? Yihua asked faintly while drinking the century egg and lean meat porridge. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, Nan Wuqi has already set up their headquarters, and it is located in the south. So fast. Yihua was a bit surprised. I thought that they were going to do something to intimidate us first. I didn't expect that their actions would be so small. Brother-in-law, there is the latest video here. Qin Yutong, who was at the side, played the video. Everyone saw the long flight of stairs and the palace in the sky. So imposing. As expected of a person from the prehistoric era, such an imposing manner is enough to intimidate a lot of people. Qin Yutong said confusedly, this video was taken from the sky, which means that there are helicopters hovering around the surroundings. However, Nan Wuqi didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is very strange. Qin Yutong's words obtained the agreement of Qinya and Donghuang Baiji. For such a powerful person to directly ignore this point, this is very unusual. Yihua said faintly, because it is disdainful, it didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is a very simple logic. In actuality, the more Nan Wuqi didn't make a move, the more confused Yihua was, because this didn't make sense. Perhaps it is only the second day, and they don't have a concrete plan yet. That's right. I just have to continue waiting. If the enemy doesn't make a move, I won't make a move. Yihua continued speaking, then didn't say anything else. However, 1 month passed, 2 months had passed, 3 months had passed. The popularity of Nan Wuqi seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and everyone had almost forgotten about this matter and returned back to their normal lives. During these 3 months, Yihua was very gloomy. Zishan said that day that Nan Wuqi likes to challenge strong opponents, but looking at it now, Nan Wuqi didn't make a move at all. Yihua was even a bit impatient. There were a few times when he wanted to send people over to probe Nan Wuqi's intentions, but in the end, he still endured it. I have never taken the initiative before, and this time is no exception. Therefore, during these 3 months, Yi Hua was a bit unhappy. Every day, he would look forward to them causing trouble, but every day, he would be disappointed. I feel that this South Wuchi is a group with brains. Then, I shall play with your brains. I have never been afraid of anyone. However, to Yi Hua, today was a good day. Right now, Yi Hua was anxiously standing outside of Dong Huang Baiji's bedroom, and Dong Huang Baiji's shouts could be heard coming from inside. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yen were holding hands, and they were also very nervous. Daddy, it has already been so long, why hasn't Mommy given birth yet? Dong Huang Li asked worriedly. Li, don't worry, it will be very soon. With a gentle smile on his face, Yi Hua said. Along with the sound of the child crying, Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally given birth to the child safely. Back then, when Qinya gave birth to Yen, I, the Supreme Overlord, was also extremely worried. Today is also the same. In the future, I better not give birth to a child. I, the Supreme Overlord, am truly afraid of this kind of feeling. Yi Hua brought along the 2 children and walked inside. Dong Huang Baiji, who was lying on the bed, looked a bit weak, and her complexion was pale. While hugging onto a little fellow, Qinya said with a slight smile, Yi Hua, you are going to have another son. That's true, Ali has another little brother. Dong Huangli was very happy. Chapter 691. The little fellow was white and tender, he who had just cried just a while ago, his face was currently cold, that's right. This expression of Yi Hua's was extremely similar to Yi Hua's, the Yi Hua with a straight face. Yi Yen looked at his brother's expression and was slightly stunned. Wow, my brother is so cool. That's right, little brother's expression is just like daddy's expression. Dong Huangli cried out in surprise. It can't be that little brother's personality has been infected by daddy, right? Qinya was also a bit surprised. Dong Huang Baiji's son is truly a bit cold, he is too similar to Yi Hua. However, when Yi Hua took a look at his son, the latter actually looked straight at his father. How audacious. Not bad. As expected of my son, you're full of vigor. Yi Hua said faintly. Soon after, he walked to the side of the bed and lightly caressed Dong Huang Baiji's face. Baiji, it has been hard on you. Feeling the warmth of her husband's hand, Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, it's not hard, as long as you're happy, it's fine. Rest well, for the next few days, don't bother about Voidless Realm's trivial matters. N. Dong Huang Baiji nodded. Qinya, let me take a look at my son. Dong Huang Baiji sat up and laid on the head of the bed. Qinya handed the child over to Dong Huang Baiji. Looking at her son's expression, Dong Huang Baiji was a bit surprised. This little fellow has just come out, and yet, his aura is already so strong. Especially that gaze, it is too similar to Yi Hua's. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to be a bit worried. She patted on her son's butt, wanting her son to cry. However, who would have thought that her son did not have any reaction at all? Furthermore, with a puzzled look on his face, he seemed to be asking, Mom, why did you hit me? Alright, Dong Huang Baiji had no other choice. Yi Hua, your son is so cool, he looks exactly the same as you. Dong Huang Baiji carefully placed her son onto Yi Hua's hand. Yi Hua looked at the little fellow in his embrace and laughed lightly, sure. He's my 3rd child. His name is God Yi. When the little fellow heard his father's name, a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. This name is simply like a miniature version of Yi Hua, it is 2F** king similar. God Yi. The future god of slaughter. An existence that was 100 times more savage than his father. When Dong Huang Baiji heard this name, she said worriedly, Yi Hua, isn't this name a bit too big? What does it matter? My child is going to be bigger than the heavens. Yi Hua said in disdain. The little fellow in his arms seemed to understand and nodded, indicating that he liked the name very much. Brother-in-law, quickly let me hug him. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, couldn't wait any longer, and she didn't even have the time to hug him. Yi Hua sent the child to his sister-in-law. Qin Yutong looked at God Yi, then reached out and hooked God Ye's chin. The little guy seemed to have a look of disdain. This caused Qin Yutong to laugh. Wow, look at the little fellow, he is getting angry just like brother-in-law. Is that so? Quickly, let me take a look. Qin Yi moved closer to Yi Hua. Qin Yi discovered that what Yi Hua said was really interesting. Dong Wang Baiji, who was lying on the bed, felt helpless. My daughter's personality is like mine, and my son's personality is completely like Yi Hua's. To be honest, Yi Hua's personality was not likable. Arrogant, conceited, bad-tempered, chauvinistic, and also liked to act cool. Basically, all the shortcomings of a man were gathered on him. Dong Wang Baiji didn't want her son to be like this. From the looks of it, I will have to put in more effort to change her son's character. Dong Wang Baiji's idea was good, but the reality was not like that. 1 week later, Gaji learned how to walk just like big brother Yi Yan. 2 weeks later, Gaji had already started practicing swordsmanship. 1 month later, everyone became speechless. The morning in Voidless Realm was very peaceful. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan woke up very early and prepared to start their daily training. However, in the garden, there was already a small figure that was dripping with sweat, and there was no expression on the small figure's face. Gaji let out a breath, then looked at his big sister and big brother who looked like they had not woken up yet, then said faintly, "Big sister, big brother, you two are late." Dong Huangli rolled her eyes. Yi Yan had a gloomy look on his face. This was already not the first time. No matter what Gaji did, he would always be very focused, very serious, and would never joke around, just like a small adult. "Little God, I am your big sister, you have to listen to me." "That's right, little God, I am your big brother, you have to listen to me too." Gaji said faintly, "All right, big sister, big brother, let's start training." Dong Huangli, Yi Yan, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan felt helpless towards this little brother of theirs. All he does is train, and it seems like only training can make him happy. Dong Huangli said softly, "Daddy and Mommy still haven't woken up yet, let's go out and play." "All right, big sister, let's go out and play." Yi Yan was the first to raise his hand in agreement. Gaji said faintly, "Daddy and Mommy will scold people." "It's fine, big sister will help you carry it," Dong Huangli said while patting on her chest. God Ye's expression was very serious. "Thank you big sister and big brother, but little God doesn't want to go out and play, you two have fun." "Little God, don't be so disappointing, we are just children, there is no need for us to be so hardworking," Yi Yan said. "That's right, right now, I am speaking as your biological big sister. Little God, put down the wooden sword in your hand and go out and play with us." Dong Huangli put on the attitude of a big sister. "If you don't go out and play with us, we will break off our friendship." Struggle could be seen within God Ye's eyes. "Of course, I know that Dong Huangli is my biological big sister, but I really don't like to play with you. I feel that playing with you is a waste of time and is meaningless." "Big sister, I'm sorry," Gaji said respectfully. Dong Huangli held onto her forehead, feeling a bit angry. "Little brother is too disobedient, and he is even my biological little brother. Yen, let's go, big sister will bring you to eat delicious food." Dong Huangli pulled Yi Yan and walked outside. Yi Yan still turned his head around and shouted, "Little God, are you really not coming? Big brother, take good care of big sister." God Yi revealed out an apologetic gaze. Yi Yan had no other choice. "In the past, I thought that when the time comes, we can play together and have fun together, but in the end, I found out that Gaji doesn't have any fun at all." Looking at his big sister and big brother leaving, Gaji raised the wooden sword in his hand, and with a firm gaze, he began swinging the wooden sword. Dong Wang Baiji, who was standing not too far away, saw everything that happened just now. "The thing that I am worried about the most still happened in the end, my son is not sociable. What should I do?" Dong Huangli pulled Yi Yan and walked on the road of Voidless Realm. "Big sister, don't be too angry, little God has such a personality, even the mothers can't do anything about it," Yi Yan consoled Dong Huangli in a low voice. Dong Wangli pouted her mouth. Alright, big sister isn't angry. I just feel that little god is working too hard, training every day. It's fine, Yen is accompanying big sister. Chapter 692. On the big bed in Yihua's bedroom, Qinya leaned on Yihua's arm and muttered, Baiji went to see our son again early in the morning. Yihua slowly opened his eyes, and with his right hand twirling around Qinya's beautiful hair, he said faintly, I don't know what Baiji is worried about, but I just feel that Shen-er is pretty good, and he is very hardworking, and he is worthy of praise. Qinya lightly knocked onto her husband's chest. How can you understand our thoughts as mothers? Then, what do you all think? Yihua asked. Of course, I hope that the child can grow up happily. Look at Shen-er. He doesn't play with Li Yan-er at all. He's a loner. It would be strange if Baiji wasn't worried. My child is going to be born soon, and right now, I am a bit worried. If I were to give birth to a child who has the same personality as Shen-er, then, Yihua didn't feel that his son was in the wrong, it was the two of them who were overly worried. Alright, it is a good thing for children to have their own personalities. No matter what, they are still siblings. Yihua said lightly, not really taking the matter to heart. Qinya sighed helplessly. Right at this moment, Donghuang Baiji walked into the room with a depressed heart. She crawled into the blanket and hugged onto her husband tightly. Ali and Shen seemed to have gotten into a conflict. Donghuang Baiji said faintly. Both of them are my children, and I feel rather uncomfortable seeing them like that. What's wrong? Yihua asked curiously. Donghuang Baiji then told Yihua about what happened just now. Yihua thought that Yihua was just rejecting Yihua on a daily basis. My youngest son sure has a unique personality, and he fits my taste perfectly. Baiji, you don't have to worry too much. Yihua comforted Baiji lightly. It could be seen that the Empress was very depressed this month. Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice, I'm just afraid that the siblings won't get along with each other. Yihua did not say anything. God Ye's personality is unsociable, and he often trains by himself, and he doesn't play with his big sister and big brother. Yihua was able to understand God Ye's personality. After all, he was also like that in the past. However, as a mother, Donghuang Baiji was having a headache. Qinya, your due date is coming soon, right? Donghuang Baiji reminded. Qinya nodded her head, that's right, soon, the lady is coming out. That's right, this time, Qinya was pregnant with a girl, and both of them had a son and a daughter. Yihua said with a smile, alright, since you have already given birth, I can finally have some fun. The two wives glared at Yihua fiercely. The two wives were getting more and more flirtatious. Just when everyone was planning to get up from the bed, Qinya suddenly wrinkled her brows and cried out. Qinya, what's wrong? Donghuang Baiji asked anxiously. Qinya's face was a bit painful. You really got it right, it's coming out. Yihua, quickly call Yutong over to help. Donghuang Baiji said hurriedly. Yihua nodded his head, then called Xin Yutong over to help deliver the baby. This time, Yihua was very relieved. After the incident that happened last time, Qinya's side effects had already been eliminated, therefore, that kind of situation wouldn't happen again. Yihua brought along the three children and stood outside the house, waiting anxiously. God Yi stood beside his father. The cold arrogance between the father and son was exactly the same, and there was no extra expression on their faces. On the other hand, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan who were at the side were much more lively, and they matched the personalities of the children. Not long after, the sound of a child crying could be heard in the room. Yihua heaved a sigh of relief. Everything went smoothly. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan immediately rushed into the room. Meanwhile, Yihua walked into the room unhurriedly, and God Yi respectfully followed beside his father's feet. Brother-in-law, quickly come and take a look. Qin Yutong carried onto her big sister's daughter and shouted towards Yihua. Right now, Yihua was a bit worried about Qin Yutong's personality, and he immediately looked towards his daughter who was in Qin Yutong's embrace. The little guy was lying there quietly. What? His expression was exactly the same as God Ye's. Yutong, let me take a look. Qinya also began to worry, especially when she saw her husband's expression just now. She became even more worried. Qin Yutong pursed her lips, then passed the child to her big sister. Qinya looked at her daughter's expression. Her daughter's expression was exactly the same as God Ye's at that time. Dong Huang Baiji, who was at the side, saw it as well. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but look at her son who was standing at the side. What a headache. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan also rushed to look at their little sister, and when they saw their little sister's expression, they were instantly stupefied. Wasn't that the second God Yi? Dong Huang Li patted onto Yi Yan's shoulder. From the looks of it, in the future, only the two of us will be able to play together. Yi Yan no longer held any hope for his own sister. She would definitely be a small god in the future. It seemed that they would have to be divided into factions in the future. The adults all heard the little fellow's conversation and seemed very helpless. From their personalities, it could be seen that they would have to be divided into two factions in the future. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, also began to face this problem seriously. Yi Hua, what is our daughter's name? Qinya, who was carrying her daughter, asked her husband. Yi Hua pondered for a moment, then slowly said, Yi Lu. Hearing the name that her husband gave her, a smile appeared on the corner of Qinya's mouth. Chapter 693. Yi Yan exhaled softly. Let's go to Mom and Dad's place for breakfast after you're done. Thank you for your concern, big brother, Gaji said lightly. Okay, big brother. Yi Lu nodded and said softly. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan left while holding hands. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan's back view seemed a bit down. Right now, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan are truly divided into two factions. One was the playful faction led by Dong Huang Li, while the other was the serious faction led by God Yi. Seeing their elder sister and brother leave, God Yi and Yi Lu distanced themselves from each other. Brother, there are still 10 minutes left, Yi Lu said indifferently. That's enough. God Yi shouted in a childish voice. His small body turned into a phantom and rushed out. Yi Lu also went all out, and the two little fellows were having a great time fighting. On the other hand, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan were having a lot of fun. Right now, the Empress was also helping Qinya make breakfast. After all, the number of people in the family was a bit too much, and adding Qin Yutong into the family, there were 8 people in the family. The little fellow's appetite was not small. Just that, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji, who were making breakfast, seemed a bit gloomy. Sai, Shen, and Lu are truly wholeheartedly focusing on cultivation. Dong Huang Baiji said. It had already been 2 months, and it seemed like Dong Huang Baiji had gotten over it quite a bit. Qinya nodded her head. That's right, it's also good for Lu to be Shen's companion. If not, Shen will be too lonely. I'm just worried for them after they grow up. Dong Huang Baiji was very worried. She was afraid that her children would turn against each other and become enemies. Baiji, you think too much. Although they don't play together, they have a good relationship. Shen and Lu are very respectful to Ali, I hope so. Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Carrying the breakfast, the 2 beautiful wives walked to the front hall, and at this time, the 4 children walked in one after another. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan were on one side, while God Yi and Yi Lu were on one side. However, don't look at how God Yi and Yi Lu were on the same side, the two of them were actually enemies. Towards this kind of situation, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji were already used to it. Did you wash your hands? Qinya asked with a smile. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan said happily, yes. God Yi and Yi Lu, on the other hand, extended their palms, indicating that they had already washed. From this point, it could be seen that Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative, while God Yi and Yi Lu belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative. These were 2 extremes. Right at this moment, Yi Hua walked out from the room at the side. The 4 children shouted in unison, "Good morning, Daddy." Yi Hua nodded his head and took the lead to sit down. At this moment, only then did Qinya and Donghuang Baiji sit down, followed by the children. From this point, it could be seen that Yi family was still very neat and tidy, other than one person. Brother-in-law, big sister, wait for me. Qin Yutong ran over energetically. Qinya wrinkled her brows. Yutong, how many times have I said it, be steady. Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. Steady, that's impossible, I won't be able to be steady in my entire life. She even felt resentful that her brother-in-law didn't love her anymore. He had only come twice this month. It was so sad. It seemed like Big Sister and Big Sister Baiji had given him a lot of benefits. Otherwise, brother-in-law wouldn't be like this. Ever since Qinya gave birth to a child, Yihua began to let loose of himself. Every day, he would roll in the sheets with his two wives. Not to mention how great it was, even Nan Wuchi didn't have time to care about Yihua anymore. However, this time, I had prepared contraceptive measures. My marksmanship is truly powerful, I can kill one with one shot. Looking at his 4 children eating peacefully, Yihua's mood was also very carefree. When would I have thought that I would have such a day like this? What's the situation with Nan Wuchi right now? Yihua asked faintly. He had almost forgotten that there was such a group of people. Donghuang Baiji shook her head. From the moment they appeared until now, they have not done anything. Gaji suddenly placed down his chopsticks and said seriously, Father, Mother, why don't you leave this matter to Shen-er? I want a mission. Yi Lu followed and said. The words of the 2 little fellows made the adults laugh. They were quite attentive. All right, the 2 of you are still young, just leave this kind of matter to Father and Mother. Qinya rubbed onto her daughter's head and said tenderly. To know how to worry at such a young age, when they grow up, they will definitely be very outstanding. Dong Huangli and Yi Yen were a bit gloomy. This little brother and little sister actually came to ask their father for a mission. As the big sister, I still don't have the qualifications. Yihua looked at Li's gloomy expression and said faintly, the 2 of you should just focus on your cultivation and listen to big sister's words, understand? Towards their father's words, God Yi and Yi Lu would definitely listen to them. All right, Father. Father, Lu understands. Yihua nodded his head, then signaled everyone to continue eating and not to think about anything else. At this moment, on the stairs of Nanwiki, there was a Meituan's little brother who was carrying a heavy box on his back. F***K, delivering a Meituan, I almost lost my life. The Meituan's little brother sat paralyzed on the stairs. This was already not the first time that he came to deliver food. If it wasn't for the fact that the delivery fee was very high, he wouldn't have accepted such a mission even if he was beaten to death. The Meituan's little brother rested for a minute, then continued to climb the stairs. After an hour, he finally reached the end of the stairs and shouted out loudly, Your group beauty is here. Right after he finished speaking, the big box automatically opened. The Meituan's little brother wasn't surprised at all as he said, Remember to leave a 5-star rating. Sure. Looking at the food floating in the air and entering the palace, the little brother looked at the stairs again. Climbing up is hard, and going down is even harder. White Bones walked into the palace with the food, and right at this moment, Kaiyun's excited voice rang out from within the palace. Dragon! 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 Hurry up! Kaiyun stood on a chair while holding onto a lollipop in his mouth and shouted out to his 4 subordinates. Yuhua said gently, Flag Master, our mid-lane's Highland Tower is being stolen by Sword Saint. It's fine, we counterattacked the big dragon. Kaiyun said excitedly. The 4 subordinates were helpless and could only follow the Flag Master to steal the big dragon. They didn't even care about their home anymore. Flag Master, I will go and poke a hole to prevent Blind from stealing the big dragon. Luoho was very steady. Kaiyun said in disdain, What are you going to poke a hole for? If Blind comes, I will save my skill to insta-kill him. Flag. Sky Red was about to speak. Kaiyun directly said, Little Red. Don't speak. Keep quiet. Alright, the big dragon's blood spurted out very quickly. However, a flash of light suddenly appeared. Kai Yun was stupefied as he saw Blind appearing and snatching the big dragon, then going up again. The 5 of them stood blankly in the pit of the big dragon. Kai Yun directly typed and scolded Blind for being shameless. Flag Master. Sword Saint is going to demolish our home. Luo Ho hurriedly reported the situation. Go home. Kai Yun waved his hand and gave the order. Just as everyone was returning to the city, a big easy flew over and instantly interrupted them. Kai Yun, everyone from South Wuchi watched as their base was demolished by Sword Saint. Chapter 694. Ah! Kai Yun held on to his head and was about to go crazy. You bunch of swindlers, can't you let me win a round? Haven't you all heard of the saying that a dragon can destroy a person's life? I'm so angry. Kai Yun pouted his small mouth and had a very unhappy look on his face. Yu Hua hugged Kai Yun and comforted him gently. Flag Master, don't be angry, your favorite Mai Xianfeng is here. It's here? Hearing that there was a Mai Xianfeng, Kai Yun immediately beamed with joy. Flag Master, the takeaway is here. White Bones brought over a pile of delicious food, and Kai Yun hopped around to look for the Mai Xianfeng. That sweet taste made Kai Yun reveal a satisfied smile. The food in this world is really delicious, so fragrant. To be able to provide delicious food for Flag Master is humanity's fortune. White Bones, who was in the air, said respectfully. Kai Yun raised his hand and was a little proud. Then, he asked, White Bones, how is the investigation going these few months? Reporting to Flag Master, the overall strength of this world is very weak. There isn't any powerful existence. White Bones had been collecting information these few months, and the others had been playing games with Flag Master. Hearing such words, Kai Yun's complexion turned bad again. He had a typical childish personality. Boring. Kai Yun pouted and said. After eating a Mai Xianfeng, Kai Yun picked up a potato and started eating. Lower the requirement then, ordinary is fine too. Flag Master, there might not even be ordinary. White Bones said softly. What? Not even ordinary? So weak. Kai Yun was in disbelief. How do the people on this planet live? After a long time, Kai Yun continued, lower the requirement then, lower the requirement then. There is. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun said in boredom, let's listen to it then. In Europe, there is a person who claims to be a demon called Lucifer, there is also a person who claims to be a local called Voidless Realm, and there is also a person who claims to be an empress. White Bones reported the people who were of a lower strength. Kai Yun picked up the tube and inserted it into the cola, then took a deep breath. Just these 3? Yes, Flag Master. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun took a deep breath, then, go and invite them over for a meal. It's so boring, let's continue to play games. Yes. Flag Master. White Bones said respectfully. The 5 of them returned to their seats. Yu Hua asked curiously, Flag Master, why did you call them over? I don't know, when the time comes, it will depend on my mood. Don't talk about these things anymore, I want to be a mid-laner. If you don't want to give it to me, then I will give it to you. The 4 subordinates. In a castle in Europe, Lucifer was sitting on his throne. His slender fingers rested on the armrest as he slowly tapped it. South Wuchi, this faction has been here for some time. Do you have any information? Lucifer asked calmly. Lord Lucifer, other than the delivery every day, there's no other information. Owen was also one of Lucifer's demon generals. His strength was extraordinary, and he was also a handsome guy. Lucifer said in a deep voice, the last time Taylor and Julia went to capture someone, they didn't expect to be left in the East forever. Lord Lucifer, the East has always been very mysterious. If there's no need, don't ever go there. The one who spoke was called Miller, also one of the demon generals. When he found out that 2 demon generals had died in the mysterious East, Lucifer was furious. At that time, he wanted to take revenge for his subordinates, but he was stopped by the 2 of them. Although it was a little unjust, their instincts told them that if Lord Lucifer went there, he definitely wouldn't come back. The two demon generals even fought with Lucifer. In the end, Lucifer didn't go to the mysterious east, but he had always kept this grudge in his heart. As long as there was a chance, he would definitely take revenge for his subordinates. Lucifer said angrily, "You guys are just exaggerating. Lord Lucifer, please calm down." Owen persuaded carefully, hoping that Lord Lucifer wouldn't act on impulse and take a step back. It had to be said that these two subordinates had stopped Lucifer from sending their heads to the demon generals. They were rare good subordinates and deserved to be praised. Let's talk about this mysterious South Wuchi. Lucifer put his depression aside first. There's nothing to talk about. A voice suddenly rang out from the air. Owen and Miller immediately became vigilant. Lucifer suddenly stood up, then looked around and shouted, "Who is it?" "One of the 5 banners of South Wuchi, White Bones." The strange voice rang out from the air again. South Wuchi. We were just talking about this South Wuchi just now, and I didn't expect that South Wuchi would appear so quickly. This is too much of a coincidence. Furthermore, it's that strange White Bones. Lucifer didn't dare to be careless and asked, "What are you doing here?" White Bones said faintly, "The Banner Master has ordered to invite you to South Wuchi for a meal." "A meal?" Owen shouted out coldly, "What qualifications does your Banner Master have to invite the great Lucifer?" PFFF. Just after Owen finished speaking, he felt a chill on his chest. Drip, 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 the sound of blood dripping onto the ground rang out in the hall, and it seemed very strange. Owen lowered his head and took a look at his chest blankly. My chest was pierced through, but I can't see anything at all. It felt as if my chest was pierced through by air, but I can feel the chill coming from that pierce through my chest. Insulting the Banner Master, there is only death for you. White Bones said coldly. When White Bones retracted his hand, Owen's chest was like a fountain, and boiling hot blood splattered onto the ground. The black wings on Owen's back immediately opened up, and Owen slowly walked a few steps, then fell into a pool of blood. Killing a demon general with a single strike, this caused Lucifer to feel shocked, to the point that he didn't even dare to move. Miller, who was at the side, also didn't dare to say anything. I can't sense where the enemy is at all, and I feel a chill on my back. It seems that if I were to say anything, would die on the spot. 3 days later. The Banner Master will be waiting for your arrival. If the person doesn't arrive, then the head is fine too. Right now, Lucifer was trying to find the location of White Bones, but he was completely unable to find it. Facing such a threat, Lucifer didn't have any strength to retaliate at all, and he could only watch as his subordinate died. After quite a while, Miller said in alarm, "Lord Lucifer, that person seems to have left." Lucifer didn't know if that person had left or not, and his expression was very tense. After around half an hour, Lucifer finally couldn't bear it anymore and sat down. Miller was also scared to the point that his forehead was filled with sweat. "Lord Lucifer, 3 days later, we go," Lucifer said gravely. "There's no other way, that person's strength is too terrifying." Miller let out a breath. "If I don't go, I will die, but if I go, I will still be able to have a try." Chapter 695. On a certain mountaintop in Japan. The houses here were all built on the mountainside. There were no walkways around the houses, and there were only thin ropes around the houses. Countless shadows were shuttling back and forth at an extremely fast speed. The building on the mountaintop was very special. Although it didn't have any special decorations, just by standing there, it gave off a feeling of reverence. Looking down from above, there were small bridges, flowing water, cherry blossoms, and pink petals falling onto the ground, presenting a beautiful picture. From time to time, clattering sounds could be heard coming from the wooden place. Some women wearing wooden clogs were serving desserts, and their deathly white makeup looked a bit scary. In the main hall, a few men were kneeling on the ground. The one sitting in the middle was naturally the big boss of Seoul Group, Miyamoto Shotai. Below him, there were also 4 people wearing loose black and white kimonos, and their faces were filled with respect. Did that Nan Wuchi make any movements recently? Miyamoto Shotai asked in a low voice. That goatee was very funny, causing the four subordinates to not dare to look straight at Miyamoto Shotai, fearing that they wouldn't be able to hold back their laughter. Because Miyamoto Shotai also looked very funny, and coupled with that goatee, it feels like a joke. Miyamoto-sama, Nan Wuchi hasn't made any movements these few months. Shi Tianguang said while slightly lowering his head. Miyamoto Shotai let out a breath. Nan Wuchi has been here for a few months, but he actually didn't make any movements. This is very surprising. Miyamoto-sama, maybe this Nan Wuchi is looking for an opportunity. Nakata Koda was a small fatty, and while kneeling, he looked like a meatball. The person who was sitting below the fatty was called He Mingming. This person was rather skinny, and he was very tall, giving people a feeling that he was a bamboo pole. Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, Nan Wuchi will definitely turn China's cultivation world upside down. I'm afraid that Voidless Realm will make an appearance. Kazuta Taniguchi said gravely. Miyamoto Shotai picked up the wooden cup in his right hand, took a small sip, then put it down. Voidless Realm has always been a thorn in my heart. If not for Voidless Realm, we would have long invaded China. Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, I believe that China's cultivation world will be in chaos soon. At that time, we will definitely be able to intervene. Nakata Koda said with a fawning smile. Coupled with that chubby face of his, Nakata Koda looked very scary. I wonder when Nan Wuchi is going to make his move. I'm really worried. Miyamoto Shotai said faintly. In his heart, he hoped that Nan Wuchi would be able to exterminate Voidless Realm, and it would be best if both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm were to end up with both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm being heavily injured. It can't be that Nan Wuchi is afraid of Voidless Realm, right? That's why they haven't made a move yet? Kazuta Taniguchi murmured. Puff. Just as he finished speaking, Taniguchi Kazuta felt a chill on his back. He felt as if his heart had been grabbed. Wada, what's wrong? He wisely saw that Wada Taniguchi didn't look well and asked with concern. I have thorns, bang. Taniguchi Kazuta could be seen heavily falling onto the wooden table, and his heart was floating in the air, slowly moving. This terrifying scene caused the four people present to not dare to move recklessly. Wada Taniguchi is a super strong ninja, how can he be killed in a second? Ha! He shouted in anger. A katana appeared in his hand and he slashed at the air. Boom! With a single slash, the entire house was split open. It was terrifying. However, he wisely only felt a chill on his chest, and his heart was being pulled out by someone. Two bloody hearts floated in the air. He who was holding onto the katana stared blankly at his own beating heart, then slowly fell onto the ground. Humph. Do you think that I, Nan Wuchi, will be afraid of the weak Voidless Realm? What a joke. White Bones said with an eerie tone as he clenched his fists. The two boiling hot hearts immediately exploded, and blood splattered onto Shi Tianguang and Nakata Koda's faces. The two of them were clearly scared stiff. Miyamoto Shotai was the same as well. You, who are you? Miyamoto Shotai said intermittently. He was very frightened. I am one of the 5 banners of Nan Wuchi, White Bones. White Bones. How could the remaining 3 people not have heard of White Bones? They had watched those few videos of White Bones before, and they even felt that White Bones was the strongest among the 5 banners. Because White Bones doesn't have any form, how are they supposed to kill it? Kill it with my consciousness? Or stare it to death with Doom's eyes? Both of these are completely impossible. However, what they didn't know was that White Bones was actually the weakest among the 5 banners, and the other 4 banners were even more monstrous. Miyamoto Shotai slowly stood up, then immediately did a 90 degrees bow. When Ishida and Nakata Koda saw that their boss had already bowed, without thinking, they immediately stood up and did a 90 degrees bow. They were incomparably sincere. Lord White Bones, I apologize for offending you just now, but it definitely wasn't my wish. Miyamoto Shotai said gravely. White Bones looked at the 3 despicable people in front of it, and there wasn't any fluctuation in its emotions. 3 days later. The banner's master invites you over for a meal. White Bones said calmly. This sentence gave Miyamoto Shotai quite a scare. A meal? Are you sure that I'm not going to eat people? But am I going to deny it now? What is the consequence? Miyamoto Shotai took a look at the wooden floor. Those 2 lumps of flesh and blood are so conspicuous. This should be the consequence of not agreeing to it, right? Alright, I will definitely come over 3 days later. Miyamoto Shotai said respectfully, not daring to raise his head at all. After a long while, when no one heard White Bones' voice, everyone slowly straightened their backs, then sat powerlessly on the floor. Ishida Hikaru mumbled, this Nanwuchi is indeed powerful. Yeah, we killed the 2 of them without leaving a trace. Nakata Senda looked at the 2 corpses. There was a bloody hole in their chests. It was terrifying. How was this murder? It was a complete instant kill. There was no logic to it at all. With his brows tightly wrinkled, Miyamoto Nagata said, I'm afraid that this Nanwuchi is even stronger than Voidless Realm. Miyamoto-sama, if we can get on Nanwuchi's good side, I'm sure it'll be more beneficial for us. The little fatty, Nakata Senda, gave a good suggestion. His blood was flowing with submission. Miyamoto Shotai felt that this idea is very good, I can give it a try, if we can reach an agreement, join the alliance, it will definitely be beneficial to me. 3 days later, the 2 of you will go with me. Miyamoto Nagatake decided that he had to give it a try. In any case, he would die either way. Nakata Genta didn't want to die. He hurriedly said, Miyamoto-sama, you should know that my mother's birthday is in 3 days. Yes, Miyamoto-sama, my son is getting married in 3 days. Ishida Hikaru hurriedly refused. Dinner 3 days later, that's definitely going to be the last dinner. Miyamoto Shotai said faintly, birthday? How about changing it to a funeral? Marriage? Let's change it to a funeral. The 2 immediately knelt on the floor and shouted out in unison, subordinate is willing to follow Miyamoto-sama. Chapter 696. Inside Voidless Realm. Do Fushir and Li Hun were strolling in the mountains. Li Hun leaned on Do Fushir's side sweetly and held on to Do Fushir's arm tightly, as if she was afraid that Do Fushir would run away. Little Do, will you not want me any more in the future? Li Hun asked softly, her originally sweet face became bitter. In Li Hun's heart, she was afraid of being abandoned. Now that she had given everything to Do Fushir, she naturally hoped to grow old together with Do Fushir. Hearing Li Hun's words, Do Fushir laughed lightly, little Li Hun, what happened to you recently? Why are you always asking such questions? Just answer me, I want to hear it. Li Hun pouted her little mouth. Do Fushir stopped walking and held on to Li Hun's shoulder. Looking at Li Hun's beautiful face, Do Fushir still felt as if he was dreaming. Li Hun is too beautiful, what did I do to deserve you to love me so much? Do Fushir stretched out his hand and caressed the mark between Li Hun's eyebrows. Little Li Hun, you are so beautiful. Hearing the praise of the person she liked, Li Hun smiled very happily and directly hugged Do Fushir tightly. Little Do, I like you so much, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. And we will be together for the rest of our lives. Do Fushir lightly caressed Li Hun's long hair and felt that he had become more mature. After having a woman, men will naturally become more mature, this is great. Little Li Hun, how about we play hide and seek? Do Fushir smiled and said. Sometimes, a couple needs to interact with each other. Alright, you hide, I will come and catch you if I catch you, Li Hun said coyly. She even bit her lips lightly, her meaning couldn't be any more obvious. Do Fushir scratched the back of his head, no problem, I guarantee that you will feel comfortable. Quickly go and hide, once I catch you, we will go back. After speaking, Li Hun covered her beautiful eyes. Do Fushir took the opportunity and kissed Li Hun's cheek. Annoying, quickly go and hide, I will let you kiss me to your heart's content later. Okay. Do Fushir immediately ran away, his speed was so fast that it made one speechless. He was easily caught by departing soul, and he even got some benefits. To think that he would really play around. How could a straight guy like him have a girlfriend? Do Fusher didn't know where he had run off to, so he stood quietly on top of a tree, thinking that little Solhun definitely wouldn't be able to find him. I'm a gold raider, Do Fusher. I'm a top-notch expert in searching for dragons and exploring caves. He might not be able to find dragons now, but his acupoint detection skills were getting better and better. After waiting for a long time, Do Fusher still did not see the soul separation Do, revealing a pleased smile. However, his smile soon froze. He felt that there was someone behind him. Little Solhun had found him. Huh, congratulations, you found me. Do Fusher turned around with a smile on his face. He had even thought of how he was going to return. However, when Do Fusher turned around, he did not see anyone at all and was instantly stunned. But it really felt like there was someone there just now. What was going on? Suddenly, Do Fusher's eyes narrowed and he immediately dodged. The tree beside him was instantly cut in half. Do Fusher, who had fallen to the ground, looked at his arm, which had a bloody wound. This situation caused Floating Do to be shocked. Who is it? Do Fusher asked in a low voice. There was no one around, only the faint sound of the wind and the rustling of the leaves. A sense of danger suddenly struck. Do Fusher did not have much time to think and dodged the attack. Bang! The place where he was standing just a moment ago was cut in half. Do Fusher's heartbeat began speeding up. How is this possible? Uncle Wei was the one who bestowed him with power, a terrifying power. Even soul separation Do is not my opponent, just who is this person? Who is it? If you have the guts, come out. Do Fusher shouted out again. White Bones said faintly, you are not bad, you were able to dodge 2 of my attacks. Hearing the words that came from the air, Do Fusher became even more unable to remain calm. Do Fusher looked around with a panicked expression on his face. Just like what Yihua had said, Do Fusher and the Green and Red brothers were indeed very strong, but they lacked battle experience, and adding on that they did not have any cultivation techniques, they were not Do Fusher's opponent at all. Swoosh! Do Fusher felt a chill on his right shoulder, and when he turned around to take a look, he saw that his shoulder had been cut in half. A wave of pain immediately spread to his brain. However, right now, Do Fusher still did not know where the enemy was. Come out! Do Fusher shouted out angrily and punched the air, causing a huge shockwave to erupt out. It's useless. You are still too weak. White Bones said faintly. Do Fusher's gaze became serious. This voice is coming from behind me. I finally found you. Without any hesitation, a powerful black light condensed on Do Fusher's fist and directly punched towards the voice. Boom, boom, boom. The entire forest collapsed in a fan shape, and a powerful spiritual pressure erupted out. The pain on Do Fusher's shoulders caused his breathing to become a bit chaotic. Looking at the scene that he had created, Do Fusher laughed and said, "This is what you get for looking down on me, a gold raider. I will kill you, the invader, with a single punch." Right after he finished speaking, Do Fusher felt that his chest had suffered a huge impact, and even his chest bones caved in. Do Fusher's body flew out like a cannonball, giving rise to a loud sound, and the entire mountain shook violently. Right now, Do Fusher was lying on a pile of dirt, and there was a clear fist mark on his chest. Blood was continuously flowing out from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were lifelessly looking at his surroundings. Little Do Fusher. When Do Fusher heard that familiar voice, his expression immediately changed. Enduring the pain on his chest, he shouted out loudly, "Soul separation. Don't come over, go and look for his honor." How could soul separation possibly listen to Do Fusher's words? Just now, when she discovered that there was a huge spiritual chi fluctuation, she hurriedly came over to take a look at the situation. After that, she saw her beloved man lying on a pile of dirt, looking as if he was about to die. Little Do Fusher, what happened to you? Don't scare me. Soul separation supported Do Fusher up and asked with a sobbing tone. Soul separation. There is an invader. He is very strong. You are not a match for him, quickly go and inform his honor. There is danger. Do Fusher hurriedly said. Now is not the time to be whispering sweet nothings to each other, quickly go and inform his honor. Invader. Soul separation's beautiful face immediately became filled with anger, and she fiercely stood up and shouted out, Who dares to hit my man? Your man is very weak. White Bones said lightly. Hearing those words that came from the air, soul separation immediately became vigilant, and a 5-colored divine sword materialized in her hand. Soul separation. Quickly run. You are not a match for him. Do Fusher grabbed onto soul separation's ankle and said with a pleading tone. Soul separation's gaze was locked onto the air. Soul separation, who had rich battle experience, closed her beautiful eyes and sensed the slight spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. However, she was completely unable to sense any spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. Come out. Soul separation shouted out coldly. White Bones didn't want to kill the 2 people in front of him. I'm not interested in fighting with you too, goodbye. Chapter 697. A swift and fierce sword chi immediately swept over, but nothing happened. The woman's sixth sense told her that she was in danger. Soul drifting quickly formed a hand seal, and a red barrier appeared on her right. Bang! The barrier was instantly shattered, and a painful blow landed on Drifting Soul's right shoulder. Drifting Soul's right shoulder instantly deformed, and her delicate body was sent flying, crashing into countless trees. Soul detachment. Do Fusher screamed as he stood up. You overestimate yourself. White Bones said indifferently. I'm going to *CK you to death. Do Fusher was furious. How dare he hit his woman? Do Fusher unleashed his explosive power, and a terrifying black mist seeped out of his body. The wounds on his arms quickly healed, and some of his flesh wounds even started to heal, causing White Bones to feel suspicious. This man was very weak, but his strength was enormous. This was especially so for this strange black mist, which made it difficult for him to understand. Feeling the immense power in his body, Do Fusher's eyes turned red as he looked at the empty forest in front of him. Here comes the problem. Hit where? Puff. Do Fusher felt a chill in his lower abdomen, as if he had been pierced by something. White Bones' voice sounded from behind him, In my eyes, you are still too weak. One thought Lotus. An enraged roar rang out as a terrifying spiritual pressure engulfed the entire mountain peak. A pink sword aura shot towards Do Fusher's back. Do Fusher clutched the wound on his abdomen, but it was still bleeding profusely. This strange thing was too terrifying. Not far away, a trail of blood flowed from the corner of Soul Departing's mouth. She held the rainbow divine sword in her hand, and based on her instincts, she had guessed that the strange thing was definitely behind her husband, so she unleashed a powerful attack in that direction. I wonder if I have hit the jackpot or not, little Dowdu. Flying Soul hurriedly ran over to Do Fusher's side and saw that blood was continuously pouring out of Do Fusher's abdomen. This gave Flying Soul a big fright, and he immediately healed Do Fusher. With the black mists healing, Do Fusher wouldn't die. White Bones said softly, You guys are annoying me. As soon as these words rang out, Do Fusher and Soul's expressions changed drastically. What the hell was going on? He couldn't see or feel anything. How could he fight? So, go to hell. White Bones growled as he charged towards Do Fusher and Soul Seeker. To the two of them, they couldn't feel the fluctuation of spiritual chi in the air at all. It was as if he could control the air to attack at will. Drifting Soul hugged Do Fusher tightly in his arms. There was nothing he could do. His opponent's strength was beyond his expectations. Little Soul Hun, I love you, Do Fusher said weakly. He was afraid that he would never be able to say these words again. The air in the air just solidified, why is this White Bones still alive? Just what kind of race is this White Bones? To actually be unable to even kill me. Yihua tightly clenched his fists. I didn't expect that I would lose half of the battle against South Wuchi. The main point is, not only that, the one that I fought was someone else's underling, and the one that got my face slapped by someone else's underling. I, the Supreme Overlord, have traveled unhindered in the world for over 1,000 years. When have I ever lost my cool? Don't leak out a single word about what happened today. Yihua shouted out gravely, then disappeared from where he was. I have to properly investigate this matter. Seeing that their husband had left, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's faces were filled with concern. This is the first time that they have seen Yihua fight, and the other party is still able to come out unscathed. This South Wuchi is indeed very strong, and this White Bones is the same as well. Right now, White Bones had returned to South Wuchi's palace hall. Kai Yun and the others were currently waiting in the 5th row. White Bones, have you informed everyone? Kai Yun was currently checking on his battle record and asked. Because Kai Yun sensed White Bones, it was just that simple. Bannerman, I have informed everyone. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun pursed his lips and asked curiously, are they still obedient? It's just that Voidless Realm's Empress, oh? She isn't willing to come? Kai Yun's expression tensed up. Yu Hua, who was sitting at the side, held onto Kai Yun's small hand and lightly rubbed on it, causing Kai Yun's tensed face to ease up. That's not it, it's a man that is beside the Empress, and he is very strong. White Bones said earnestly and gave Yu Hua a high evaluation. Very strong. Upon hearing what White Bones said, Kai Yun immediately became excited. Quickly tell me. How is he strong? Chapter 698. 666. Kai Yun clapped his little hands and laughed, like a child. This subordinate was trapped at that time, but that man didn't know about this subordinate's weakness and detonated the air, allowing this subordinate to escape. White Bones' strength lay in its ability to coexist with air. Without air, what awaited it was death. It was like suffocating to death. Thus, just now, Yihua's idea was good. He thought that he would be able to kill Baigu by freezing the air, but in the end, he ended up releasing Baigu instead. If Yihua were to find out about this, he would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood. This was indeed an excellent opportunity. White Bone was air, so it was very difficult to grasp its position. Just now, he had been very lucky and managed to solidify White Bone. Therefore, after this incident, the White Bone Association became even more vigilant. They had been careless just now. White Bones, be careful. Luo Ho said in a deep voice. White Bone's advantage was terrifying, but its weakness was also fatal. Hearing White Bone's words, Luo Ho realized that it had just walked around the gates of hell. Alright, I got it. At this moment, Kankinghong cupped his hands and said, Chi. Clear Cloud indifferently waved his hand. What are you going to do now? You're disturbing me from playing games. In any case, they'll be here in 3 days. Come, let's keep playing. The shockingly ugly Tsang Konghong nodded his head and began selecting the candidates. The 5 of them started a new game. Although it was just a small collision, it made the Supreme Overlord suffer, and this was the weakest White Bone. What specialties does the 4th-ranked Luo Ho have? There is also the 3rd-ranked Moonlight, the 2nd-ranked Scarecrow, and the strongest and ugliest Firmament Red. There was even their banner master, Kai Yun, a person with the mentality of a child. However, at that time, they were only sealed. Why weren't they directly killed? It was likely that they couldn't be killed. This was a completely different concept from Yihua's team being wiped out. Yihua and the others were killed, while others were helpless, and this was the Desolate Era. An existence that was even older than the Ancient Era. This time, Yihua's opponent was a lot stronger than those overlords. They weren't people that could be killed with just a flick of a finger. Not only did he need strength, but he also needed brains. If he wanted to kill White Bones, he would have missed the perfect opportunity just now. The chances of that happening in the future would be very slim. Moreover, against such an enemy, those under the 7 deadly sins had no way of dealing with them. In fact, the slightest bit of carelessness could result in their deaths. If Yihua had not arrived in time, Dou Fushi and Li Hun would have been finished. It wasn't that they were too weak, but that their opponents were too strong. Such an opponent was not someone they could contend against. After returning back to Clear Bar, Yihua immediately called for an emergency meeting. The strength of the opponent had already surpassed Yihua's expectations. To be able to survive under the hands of my rebirth, only this Bai Gu would be able to do so. After receiving his honor's urgent summon, all of the subordinates hurriedly put down whatever they were doing and rushed over. Yihua even specially called Li Hun over, because Li Hun was the only one who knew about what happened just now. Subordinate. We pay our respect to your honor. The opening speech is always that shocking. However, today, Yihua did not have the mood to enjoy it. When he thought about how he was looked down upon by Bai Gu just now, Yihua immediately had a stomach full of anger. I was actually ignored by a lackey. Yihua waved his hand casually. All of 7 deadly sins subordinates saw that his honor's expression was very ugly and remained silent. Those from 7 deadly sins knew what this expression meant. That means that his honor is very angry, and it is hard to appease his honor. Nan Wuchi has made his move. Yihua said coldly, and his eyes flickered with a red light. The important thing is that he made his move in front of me. Yihua shouted out angrily. Everyone gasped. This Nan Wuchi's guts are too big. He actually dared to make his move in front of his honor. Where did they get their confidence from? Dou Fushi is heavily injured. Li Hun, tell me what happened to this Bai Gu. Yihua stabilized the anger in his heart and remained calm. Remain calm. In Yihua's life, he rarely failed. Even when he was fighting against those overlords, he had never failed. He had only failed, but he had never failed before. This Bai Gu could be considered to have set a precedent, causing Yihua to begin questioning his own strength. Li Hun's injuries were not light, and there was even a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Everyone looked at Li Hun with a tense expression on their faces. Wei Cheng felt astonished. After I gave them power, Dou Fushi would be able to do whatever he wanted in this world. As for Li Hun, because of Dou Fushi, he also gained power. The two of them were actually beaten to such a state. This is something that has never happened before. The green and red brothers who were standing at the side were also stupefied. Dou Fushi was the same as them. He was also given power. If even Dou Fushi was beaten to such a state, then wouldn't it be the same for them? Zi Shan also had the same thought. Of course, there was also Tang Wei and Lai Gu's 3 wives. All of them were directly given power, and there was basically no chance for them to win. Death Mage could be considered as someone else. He had grasped many types of fatal magic. If he used his brain properly, he would still be able to win, but he wouldn't be able to insta-kill his opponent like before. As for Sun Fang, forget about it, she was the same as them, she didn't have any hope of winning. This also caused Yihua to face this problem head-on. The subordinates of subordinates should start cultivating. I am able to bestow powerful strength to my subordinates, but in the later stages, my subordinates still need to work hard on their own. Just like this time, I was actually beaten to such a state by someone else's underlings. I have completely lost all of my face. Your Honor, this Nan Wuchi's Bai Gu is just like what you saw in the video. During the battle, there is no fluctuation of spiritual energy, and it is impossible to sense the position of the Bai Gu. The Bai Gu will attack from any angle, and it is impossible to guard against it. Even the attacks will not have any effect on it. After Li Hun finished speaking, he stood there respectfully. You all heard it right. Even I am unable to feel the fluctuation of this Bai Gu's aura. Furthermore, when we were fighting, Bai Gu was completely unharmed. Yihua's words caused all of the subordinates to be stupefied. His honor actually failed. This also caused all of the subordinates to become vigilant. In the past, when we were having meetings, it was just like a joke, because we were not afraid of Bai Gu at all. After all, Bai Gu's opponents were all salted fish, and Bai Gu's opponents could be killed with just a flick of his finger. However, this time, even his honor was unable to kill Bai Gu. How is this possible? Zhu Tian, who was within Bream's embrace, said, "Your honor. I have also seen Bai Gu's video before," and adding on what Li Hun said just now, subordinate believes that Bai Gu is a type of race that exists in the air. During the Desolate Era, there were many strange races, and this Bai Gu is most likely one of them. As a part of the air, this Bai Gu is not afraid of any kind of attack, and it is commonly known as being immune to all kinds of attacks. Yi Hua nodded his head. Indeed, even when I condensed and exploded the air, I still wasn't able to kill Bai Gu. Your honor, could it be that Bai Gu doesn't have any weaknesses? Yi Zizi asked curiously. It was rare for Lai Gu to become serious. No matter how powerful a race is, there would always be a weakness. This Bai Gu definitely has a weakness. Chapter 699. Yi Hua said eerily, "This is still just a white bone. One of the 5 flags, and there is even a flag master. This will be the strongest opponent we've ever faced since the formation of the team. I hope that everyone can have the right attitude. People that aren't part of the 7 sins. After this matter, I hope that you all can recognize your own inadequacies. There are a lot of people that are stronger than you all. Don't stay at the same spot. What you should be cultivating, you should cultivate. If in the next few years, you all still stay at the same spot, then don't blame me for being merciless." The subordinates were naturally able to sense his honor's anger, and they didn't dare to say much. Subordinates will not disappoint his honor. Also, 3 days later, I will be making a trip to South Wuqi. This time, Lai Gu and Yi Zizi will be following me. There is also Death Mage. As for the rest, stay on standby. It was very rare for Yi Hua to look at his opponents like this. Even when he was fighting against God raising heaven and earth, he did it with a playful attitude, because God raising heaven and earth was the kind of existence that he could destroy with just a flick of his finger. However, this time, when he moved his finger, God raising heaven and earth was actually not injured at all. What the hell? Yes. Lai Gu shouted out respectfully, and cruelty flickered within his eyes. Yes, Yi Zizi replied sweetly, and excitement could be seen within her pair of scarlet eyes. I wonder how much stronger I will become after I absorb all of those people. GGG, Imperial Translation, understood. I still have one last question. Yi Hua asked gravely. Looking at his honor's deep gaze, the subordinates slightly lowered their heads. During the ancient era, they belonged to the strong category, and the medium category, and the weak category. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from Leisure Bar. In the past, Yi Hua felt that he was invincible, but after the matter with the white bone, he knew that he was still not strong enough. He was actually unable to kill the white bone in an instant. Too weak. After Yi Hua left, everyone didn't leave and sat on the stools in Leisure Bar. A sense of defeat. A deep sense of defeat. And also a kind of shame. When his honor faced a problem that he was unable to solve, the subordinates were actually unable to help him. Furthermore, listening to his honor's tone, it seemed like he was completely unable to interfere in this kind of matter. This was a huge blow to the subordinates of the subordinates. It turned out that there was an even stronger existence. Wei Cheng looked at his subordinates and said gravely, "Just now, His Honor said that although all of you have been bestowed with great power, because your lives were too peaceful, all of you neglected to cultivate. Look at the 2 newly born overlords, as His Honor's children, all of you have to cultivate diligently every single day. As His Honor's subordinates, all of you have to work even harder. If not, how would His Honor be able to give you all missions in the future?" Hearing what Wei Cheng said, everyone's hearts felt very heavy. We feel that we have let down His Honor's nurturing. Did we think that with this strength, it would be enough? Today's matter had given them a lesson. It turns out that there are still people in this world that they cannot defeat. The newcomer, floating battle, had been beaten like a dog, unable to retaliate. Yi Hong abruptly stood up and cupped his hands, saying, "Uncle Wei, will definitely cultivate well. I will not let His Honor lose face." Zishan, who was sitting at the side, slightly raised her head and looked at her husband's face. Suddenly, she realized that her husband's figure in her heart had become much bigger. LV Liang also stood up and said, "That's right. This matter is worthy for us to reflect upon." Wei Chang nodded his head. "I hope that everyone here will treat this matter seriously. This time, his honor is truly angry. If anyone doesn't cultivate hard and doesn't take out a good result, Wei Chang will not be soft-hearted." "Yes." Wei Chang nodded his head. "There is no need for you all to interfere in this matter. Go back and cultivate properly." Everyone responded respectfully, then left one after another with heavy hearts. Only 5 people from the 7 deadly sins remained. Brett hugged onto Zhu Tian and lightly caressed onto Zhu Tian. Right now, Zhu Tian had already given up on resisting, and he even revealed out a comfortable look on his face, seemingly like he was enjoying it very much. "Zizi, Lai Gu, this time, when you follow his honor over, you have to be careful, do not underestimate the enemy," Wei Chang reminded. "Wei Chang, be at ease, this time, the reason why we are going over is to fight for our face." Lai Gu understood why his honor called him over. It was because his honor wanted to teach the other party a lesson. Wei Chang nodded his head. "That's right, this time, his honor failed in front of the other party's subordinates, and his honor is very unhappy. Wei Chang, be at ease, Yi Zizi, have never been afraid of anyone," Yi Zizi said with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi was already impatient to go over to the 7 deadly sins. Right now, Brett's mission was to properly protect Zhu Tian, who was currently in a weakened state. Right now, Zhu Tian was as weak as an ordinary cat, and a fruit knife would be enough to deal with him. However, Zhu Tian jumped onto the table and said gravely, "Just now," his honor said, "just what kind of existence was Nan Wuqi during the Great Era? Was he weak or was he strong? Just how many people like Nan Wuqi have yet to appear? These are all hidden dangers. Zhu Tian, the Great Era has already passed for a very long time, and the information that is left behind is too little. If it wasn't for Zishan seeing a little of the information, we wouldn't even know that they were people from the Great Era." Brett let out a light sigh. The Great Era was too far away, it was even far away from the Ancient Era, and no one knew what kind of powerful existences existed during the Great Era. This time, Yi Zizi had only managed to touch a little bit of the Great Era. Zhu Tian took a glare at Brett. "Women, your hair is long, but your knowledge is short. Although we don't know, we still have to take precautions. As the subordinates of the Supreme Overlord, this is something that we have to do," Zhu Tian shouted out seriously. From the looks of it, the sudden incident this time was a good thing for the entire team. After all, the team was too pessimistic, thinking that they were invincible, they didn't even need to train. However, the arrival of White Bones gave the entire team a lesson. Even Yihua felt that he was still too weak. "If I can't insta-kill all of my enemies, then I, the Supreme Overlord, am not the strongest. Therefore, I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to go into closed-door training for 3 days. I need to properly think about life. Nothing can stop me from becoming stronger, nothing can stop me from becoming stronger." Inside Voidless Realm, Qingye and Dongwang Baiji were very worried about Yihua's situation, and right after they came back, they locked themselves inside the room. It seems like Yihua was beaten into a closed-door training. "Qingye, what should we do?" Dongwang Baiji asked worriedly. Ever since she met Yihua, this was the first time she saw Yihua acting like this. Qingye said worriedly, "I'm afraid that today's incident is a huge blow to Yihua. Just now, I found out from Zishan that Yihua started scolding Yihua. Sai, we are actually unable to help Yihua at all." Dongwang Baiji started blaming herself a bit. As a wife, she didn't want to be a vase. Although Yihua often told them that it would be fine for them to be as beautiful as flowers and leave the rest to him, Dongwang Baiji felt that they were useless. However, if something really happened to Yihua, the 2 wives would feel that they were useless. Chapter 700. Happy? Dongwang Baiji was puzzled. how can I make Yihua happy? A second later, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji took a look at each other. To make Yihua happy, there seems to be only one way. Right now, Yihua was sitting cross-legged in his bedroom. Perhaps it was because he hadn't cultivated for a long time, he was unable to calm down. When he thought of the arrogant tone of the white bones, his lungs were about to explode from anger. One of Nan Wuqi's underlings actually dared to be arrogant in front of me, and I can't do anything to him at all. This won't do, I must calm down and start cultivating. I must not be disturbed by the outside world. I must insta-kill you all and make you all tremble under my power. Just like this, no one is allowed to disturb my cultivation. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Just as Yihua was hypnotizing himself, two beautiful figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking at Qingye and Donghuang Baiji, Yihua's firm face stiffened. Even though he often sees the two of them, he couldn't help but respect them right now. Qingye could be seen wearing a black spaghetti top, her long and beautiful legs were wrapped by lace stockings. Her skirt was already as low as it could get, and there was a black unknown fabric covering her bra. Her flat lower abdomen did not have the slightest bit of fat, and coupled with that beautiful face of hers, any man would definitely explode, including me. And the Empress was actually wearing a set of white spaghetti top for the first time. Different from Qingye's black spaghetti top, what the Empress was wearing was a pair of white silk stockings with a net, which was even more explosive. The lace small skirt would occasionally sway, and even Yihua's heart would sway. The Empress's chest was the kind that was extremely full, and Yihua often couldn't bear to part with it. And today, the Empress had specially wrapped her chest up, and this was simply a visual impact. Yihua had never seen the two of them dressed like this before. It wasn't that I didn't request to dress like this before, but rather, all of my requests were rejected. In the past, you were unwilling to dress like this, but today, when I started cultivating, I came. You two are going against me, right? Do you think that I will give up cultivating just because you are dressed like this? That's impossible. Just as Yihua was determined in his heart. The Empress took out a steel pipe from God knows where and directly inserted it into the ground. This caused Yihua's heart to skip a beat. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji could be seen lightly stroking the big and thick steel pipe. This scene caused Yihua to feel like he was about to explode as he gulped down his saliva. Yihua, Qingye shouted out tenderly. Her charming eyes were like silk, and she even stuck out her tongue to lick the corner of her mouth. The Empress twisted her body slightly, and bit her lower lip lightly. Her slender legs were wrapped around the steel pipe. Why did I suddenly want to be that steel pipe? Donghuang Baiji let out her alluring voice. Yihua, what are you sitting there for? Aren't you going to come over? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't know that their husband was planning to cultivate at all, and they thought that their husband was just feeling unhappy, and that's why they were thinking of ways to make their husband happy. If they knew that Yihua was cultivating, they definitely wouldn't have come to disturb him. Looking at how his two wives were acting, Yihua was struggling in his heart. They still needed to cultivate. I am a man. Moreover, it was a man who was determined to cultivate. To go and cultivate, or to roll in bed with my wives. If I were to get killed by someone one day, it would all be their fault. To do such a thing while I am cultivating, these two truly are vixens. Yihua could be seen walking straight towards the two wives, then carrying them into his embrace, then walking towards the bed. A storm of blood suddenly erupted. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were especially attentive, and they were doing their best to make their husband happy. Today, when they saw the disappointed look on their husband's face, their hearts ached endlessly, and they hoped that doing so would be able to alleviate their husband's mood. Speaking of which, it was quite effective, just that it took a bit too long. 3 days passed by very quickly. Voidless Realm's morning was still so comfortable. God Yi and Yi Lu fought with each other every day, while Dong Huangli and Yi Yan sat at the side and watched. Yi Yan rubbed his swollen eyes. It has already been 3 days, and father and mother still haven't come out yet. Are they cultivating? They should be. Dong Huangli laid on the table and seemed very bored. I heard that father encountered some difficulties. Yi Yen said sneakily. The children still didn't know about this matter. The news was sealed, and Dou Fusher was also tight-lipped. Dong Huangli hammered onto the stone table with her small fists. We are still too young. Father and mother don't want us to know too much. That's right, I really hope that I can grow up faster so that I can help father. Yi Yen really hopes that he can grow up faster. When the time comes, he will be able to help his father fight for the world. Rumble, Yi Yen rubbed onto his stomach embarrassedly. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's shoulder. You should eat your fill first before you grow up. The food that aunt cooks is so disgusting. Yi Yen said in pain. For the past 3 days, the little fellow had been eating at Qin Yutong's place. Qin Yutong didn't know how to cook at all, and thus, the little fellow could only take out a tablet and learn how to cook. After getting used to eating the food that their mother cooks, the 4 little fellows' mouths had all become picky, which was why such a situation occurred. Alright, Aunt has been very tired these past few days, you have to understand Aunt. Dong Huangli said helplessly. Looking at the time, Dong Huangli stood up and shouted out, Everyone, stop for a moment, let's go and eat first. God Yi and Yi Lu's little faces froze, then they squeezed out a smile and said, Sister, brother, you guys go ahead. We're not hungry. Yes, I'll practice with big brother a little more, Yi Lu said seriously. Eating was out of the question. Dong Huangli walked forward, then directly held onto her younger brother and younger sister's wrists. We are brothers and sisters, we have to face difficulties together. If you want to run away, don't even think about it. Big sister, Dong Huangli didn't care about all that, and she directly pulled Qin Yutong into Qin Yutong's bedroom. However, as soon as they stepped through the door, the little fellows smelled a fragrant aroma. A sumptuous breakfast was laid out on the table. There were all kinds of dishes, such as steamed buns, fried dough sticks, millet porridge, and even rice noodles with beef. Qin Yutong sat at the side with a smile on her face. The food that I make is not delicious, and furthermore, it is a waste of time, so I might as well go out and buy it back. Isn't that much easier? Little fellows, quickly come and eat breakfast. Qin Yutong lightly smiled and said. With a puzzled expression on their faces, the 4 little fellows sat on the stool, and the smell that was being emitted from the food was causing their stomachs to call out. Alright, Aunt doesn't have that many rules here, quickly eat. Thank you, Aunt. The 4 little fellows shouted out in unison, then began crazily picking up the food on the table and eating ferociously. While eating, Qin Yutong shouted out, It's so fragrant. Looking at the 4 little fellows wolfing down the food, Qin Yutong let out a breath. In the future, I can only do this, the food that I make. Chapter 701. On the other side, Yihua had also woken up, and a happy smile could be seen on the corner of Yihua's mouth. These few days, my wives have served me very well, and they have satisfied all of my requests. Damn it, I really need to thank Nan Wuchi. Baiji, wake up. Today, we are going to go and experience Nan Wuchi's strength. Yihua retracted the smile on the corner of his mouth, and his voice suddenly became cold. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji didn't even feel like moving anymore. She didn't even have the strength to move her fingers. Let me sleep for another 5 minutes, I don't feel like moving anymore. Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly. In any case, it is still early, we can still continue. Yihua said faintly. The Empress instantly opened her eyes in shock. When she saw the naughty smile on her husband's face, she smacked him in exasperation. You're so annoying, you're lying to me again. Oh. Then, I won't lie to you. After finished speaking, Yihua carried the Empress into his embrace. I'll rise, okay? Please spare me. The Empress couldn't take it anymore. However, when she saw that her husband had returned to his original state, she felt that it was still worth it. However, she and Qinya had become half-dead tired. Yihua was just joking with Dong Huang Baiji. I have something important to do today, and I have to let this Nan Wuchi have a taste of my strength. Qinya was already tired to the point that she didn't want to open her eyes anymore. However, she still said, "You all be careful, I will be watching over Voidless Realm." Yihua kissed onto Qinya's forehead, then said lightly, "Have a good rest, I will come back to accompany you tonight." Qinya responded tenderly, then continued to sleep. So sleepy Yihua and Donghuang Baiji were also going out in splendid attire today. In the past, Yihua would basically always wear a black suit, which made him appear calm. However, Yihua, who was in a good mood today, wore a white suit. Donghuang Baiji was still dressed up as an empress, appearing very dignified. Looking at her husband's white suit, Empress was mesmerized. "My husband is so handsome. You only found out today?" Yihua laughed lightly, then hugged onto the Empress's willow waist. Then, "Husband, can I kiss you?" Donghuang Baiji asked with a smile. "You have my permission." Donghuang Baiji smiled as she wrapped her arms around Yihua's neck and kissed him. As for kissing, it was a daily habit for the husband and wife. It was as if they were in love every day, enjoying it so much that they forgot about their duties. "Alright, I'll let you kiss me again when we return tonight." Donghuang Baiji lightly pushed her husband away and said sweetly. Yihua laughed helplessly. These two women really like to whet my appetite, and they are able to succeed every single time. Interesting. However, recently, I have been neglecting my sister-in-law. One day, I will have to find some time to satisfy my sister-in-law's needs. Recently, I have also been training my hand speed, and I will definitely be able to reach the pinnacle of vibrations. The two of them immediately disappeared from the room and arrived at Leisure Bar. Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were already waiting for them. "Subordinates pay respect to your honor and your madam." The three of them shouted out respectfully. Yihua nodded his head. Today, Yi Zizi was wearing a green princess dress, and she looked very cute. Lai Gu was dressed in a red suit, which gave off a bit of a festive feeling. As for Death Mage, he was still dressed in the same black gown as before, and he was holding on to that death scythe. As for why Yihua wanted to bring Death Mage over, it was because Yihua approved of Death Mage. After all, Death Mage was different from the Green and Red brothers, he had very good battle experience. "It is still early now, let's go out and eat breakfast." Yihua could be seen that the blood demon had already prepared breakfast and walked out. "Your honor, I knew that you were coming over today, thus I had already prepared breakfast." Yihua was very gratified. This blood demon is still very sensible, I really didn't have to worry too much. While eating breakfast, Yihua said lightly, "Today, we are mainly going to test out the other party's strength." "Aren't you going to kill them?" Yi Zizi asked curiously. "Yi Zizi, are you able to kill that white bones?" Yihua asked indifferently. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth, seemingly unable to do anything to the white bones. After pausing for a moment, Yihua continued, "No matter what, they are still outsiders, I will give them a chance to admit their mistake." Lai Gu agreed with what his honor said. In the past, his honor didn't kill outsiders, and even if he did kill outsiders, it would be those who didn't want to live anymore. The Empress who was sitting beside Yihua was a bit puzzled. Why doesn't Yihua kill outsiders? In actuality, Yihua wanted to figure out the weaknesses of the outsiders first. As long as I find out the weaknesses of the outsiders, things would be much easier. Remember, you must definitely force them to use their strongest strength, do not let them hold anything back. I am very curious. Just how strong are the experts from the ancient era? This was Yihua's true goal. This could be used as a reference to compare the strength of the outsiders. Yes. The three immediately answered. In Nanhua Banner, under the sunlight, the luxurious palace on the top floor was emitting out a golden radiance, and the palace appeared to be very lofty. Within one of the luxurious rooms, Kai Yun was currently hugging onto Yu Hua and sleeping soundly. Kai Yun looked just like a child who was snuggling into his mother's embrace. Yu Hua had already woken up, and she was lightly caressing the Flag Master's hair. "Flag Master, time to wake up," Yu Hua shouted out tenderly. Looking at the flag master who was acting coquettishly and lazing in bed, Yuhua revealed out a warm smile. Flag master, there are guests coming to visit us today, you have to make some preparations. Kaiyan buried his head into Yuhua's chest. I don't want to see them, I want to sleep. Flag master, this is your own request, only children would lie. Yuhua said helplessly. The flag master needs to be coaxed, and only I am able to coax her. I'm not a child. Kaiyan opened his eyes and said angrily. Flag master, then why are you still lazing in bed? Alright, I'll get up alright. You're so annoying. Looking at the gloomy expression on the flag master's face, Yuhua couldn't help but kiss the flag master. The flag master immediately smiled. She was the kind of person who would laugh when coaxed. The two finished changing their clothes, then walked out of the luxurious room. Kaiyan yawned, then asked, is the food prepared? Yuhua nodded her head. Luoho is prepared, it's Sichuan flavor. Sichuan flavor? It's pretty good. At this moment, White Bones said respectfully, Flag Master, Lucifer has brought a subordinate down. He came so early. Yuhua, take a look at my face, is it alright? Girls all wanted to be beautiful, and Kai Yun was no exception. Flag Master's beauty is unparalleled. Yuhua bowed slightly, incomparably respectful. And let's go and welcome the guests. Kai Yun was very happy upon hearing that. On the stairs, Lucifer was walking on the stairs with Mir. Why didn't he just fly up? That was because he didn't dare to do that. After all, if he did that, it would be a form of disrespect towards others. This Nan Wuchi is too powerful. Lucifer didn't dare to easily offend Nan Wuchi, and thus, he could only bring Mir up the stairs. Chapter 702. At this time, a helicopter flew over from afar, reporting the situation of Nanwiki as usual. I don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. Nan Wuchi hasn't done anything yet we're here to take a look. A tall beauty next to him smiled and said, it's work, after all. It's not easy. Anyway, we'll go back after one round. But it's also dangerous. Who knows what these people are thinking? If they lose the game, what if they vent their anger on us? The man said helplessly. When I was playing games, I had already killed people, let alone these weirdos. The beauty was amused and said, how could such a powerful person play games? You're thinking too much. Who knows? I heard that the more powerful a person is, the weirder they are. We're almost there, the pilot shouted. The two of them looked at Nan Wuchi, who was not far away from them. Although they could see it every day, every time they saw it, they would feel the urge to worship it. That tall staircase, that dazzling golden hall, it exuded a surging prestige. There are two people on the stairs. As the helicopter got closer, the beauty cried out in surprise. The man also looked over. There were indeed two people. Judging from his attire, he didn't look like an ordinary person. Come closer, we're going to film. The man asked the driver to come closer so that he could film. The beautiful lady at the side took a look at her makeup, then picked up the microphone and said, Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reporting from Nanwuchi. Nanwuchi, which has been quiet for a few months, suddenly had an unusual situation today. There are two mysterious foreign men on the stairs, and they seem to be planning to go to Nanwuchi. What are they going to do? Please stay tuned for our next report. Lord Lucifer, do you want me to clean them up? Mill asked coldly. These people really didn't know what was good for them. How dare you disturb Lord Lucifer? Lucifer's face darkened. He really wanted to shoot the helicopter down, but this was South No Flag's territory. Doing so would be disrespectful to them. Forget it, Lucifer said in a deep voice. Mir was slightly dazed for a moment before he respectfully replied, yes. Not long after, the two of them reached the top and were overwhelmed by the luxurious palace in front of them. The two huge Lingnanwood doors slowly opened, emitting a dull sound. Kai Yun walked out with a smile on his face, followed by 5 flags. This was Kai Yun's first appearance in the outside world. Lucifer looked at this little girl, and his expression was slightly alarmed. Was this the Flag Master? Standing behind Lucifer's avatar, Miller lowered his head subconsciously. The people on the helicopter were also stunned. Was this the legendary flag leader? She turned out to be an underage girl. From her appearance, she looked like a well-behaved girl. She even skipped and skipped as she walked. It refreshed everyone's understanding of the big shots. Maybe they really know how to play games, the man murmured as he carried the camera. The picture here was quickly transmitted to the studio, and the studio soon carried out a live broadcast. The scene was broadcasted to every television. Kai-yun's face also appeared in the bustling plaza. Everyone stopped in their tracks and raised their heads slightly to look at the large screen. This is the Banner Master of Nanwa Banner? I had thought that it would be a very powerful character, didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to be a girl. Who are these two foreigners? It looks like Nanwiki is welcoming them. Welcome? Are you blind? These two foreigners are about to be scared to death. Indeed, right now, Lucifer and Miller were very panicked. They felt that the scary white bones was just at the side, and he could kill them at any moment. And there was nothing that they could do. Yu Hua, who was standing at the back, took a step forward and said with a slight smile, "Welcome to Nanwa Banner as guests, the Flag Master is very happy." Lucifer learned from the customs here, cupped his hands and said, "Nanwa Banner's grandeur is indeed extraordinary, this trip was not made in vain. The two of you can take a seat, there are still people that are coming over." Yu Hua lightly waved her hand, and one table after another was placed on the stairs at the center of the plaza. Kai-yun happily sat down first, then looked at Lucifer and shouted, "Quickly come and sit, don't just stand there." Oh, okay. Lucifer's speech was a bit unclear. Just who is this Flag Master? Up until now, I still can't figure her out. I feel that she looks very innocent on the outside, but in her heart, there is a demon. Furthermore, it's the terrifying kind. After such a scene appeared, a lot of people realized that this dinner was actually hosted by Nanwa Banner. Looking at the two tables that were at the side, everyone started guessing who else was going to be there. They all felt that Voidless Realm was one of them, because that foreigner should be representing a power, and Voidless Realm just so happened to be representing the entire cultivation world. Suddenly, 3 figures appeared, and when these 3 figures appeared, everyone seemed to have let out a hiss. These 3 people were, of course, Miyamoto Nagata, Ishida Hikaru, and Nakata Genta. The 3 people were wearing traditional kimono, white socks, wooden clogs, and pigtails. The 3 people walked over with small steps and respectfully stood in front of Kai-yun, placed both of their hands on the outside of their thighs, then made a 90 degrees bow, looking incomparably pious. "Greetings, Flag Master." Miyamoto Nagata and the other 2 shouted out in unison. However, this humble appearance of theirs made everyone sigh and speechless. Even Lucifer didn't act like this just now, this is truly a loss of face. However, Miyamoto Nagata didn't feel that it was a loss of face at all, on the contrary, he felt that it was an unparalleled honor to be able to eat here. In the entire world, I am still invited by Nameless Banner, who else could it be? You all quickly take a seat, the meal is going to start soon. Kai-yun shouted happily, not having the slightest bit of arrogance as a Flag Master. This made Miyamoto Nagata feel slightly at ease. I'm afraid that this Flag Master is a homicidal maniac, if that were to happen, things would be bad. Thank you, Flag Master, for your hospitality. Miyamoto Nagata said respectfully, then brought his 2 subordinates to sit at the side. Just that, his 2 subordinates were standing, and they didn't have the qualifications to sit at the side. As for the last seat, everyone was guessing in their hearts, just who is it? Is it Voidless Realm? However, right now, they can't even see the shadow of Voidless Realm. Kai-yun was originally still smiling, but as time passed, his face gradually became covered with frost. At this moment, Miyamoto Nagata hurriedly asked, "Flag Master, who are you waiting for?" Kai-yun was puzzled for a moment, then immediately asked towards the white bones behind him, "Who are we waiting for?" It seems like I don't even know who I'm waiting for. However, no matter who I'm waiting for, Kai Yun is very angry. To actually make me, the Flag Master, wait for someone. This is simply too outrageous. Replying to Flag Master, we are still lacking Voidless Realm. Whitebone's voice rang out in the air. This unique voice. How could Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata forget about it? It was precisely that terrifying Whitebones. Chapter 703. This voidless realm is indeed despicable. To actually not put Flag Master in their eyes. Miyamoto Shotai hurriedly said, pulling the hatred between them to the maximum. Needless to say, it was very effective. Kai Yun's face immediately became even more gloomy, to actually not put me, South Wuchi, in their eyes. Such guts. Looking at Kai Yun's indignant face, Miyamoto Shotai felt very proud. No matter what, this grudge between them is already formed. It's best if both sides fight to the death, then I'll be able to pick up the scraps. Awesome. The helicopter hovering in the sky couldn't hear what they were talking about, but that Flag Master's expression didn't seem very good. Adding on the empty seat, it wasn't hard to guess that it should be because of someone who was late. If it's really Voidless Realm, then something bad should have happened. Wuchi, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, had a gloomy expression. This Voidless Realm is actually acting like a big shot and being late. They are really tired of living. Just when everyone thought that Voidless Realm's people wouldn't come, a strange scene actually appeared in the clouds. A 5-colored auspicious cloud slowly floated over. Such a beautiful scene stunned everyone. That cloud was like cotton candy. I really want to take a bite of it. Kai Yun's gaze gradually became serious, because that 5-colored auspicious cloud was a type of illusion. Inside the 5-colored auspicious cloud, it was a truly powerful existence. Suddenly, an enormous foot stretched out from the 5-colored auspicious cloud. When the foot stepped on the sky, a powerful aura immediately exploded out. Just the size of this foot alone was enough to make people speechless. At the very least, it was as big as the entire South Wuchi realm, and it was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. Boom! Another foot suddenly stepped out, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. A terrifying aura immediately rushed toward South Wuchi. Lucifer and Miyamoto Shotai's expression became alarmed. This aura is too terrifying. Could this be Voidless Realm's trump card? As expected, I still underestimated Voidless Realm, and looking at the situation, Voidless Realm is here to cause trouble. That's right, Yi Hua is here to cause trouble, and he purposely chose to appear when the other party is furious. Kai Yun's stiff expression gradually relaxed, and a smile even appeared on his face. This Voidless Realm is a bit interesting. Flag Master, this should be an ancient divine beast. Luo Ho, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, said lightly. Kai Yun nodded. It's a black tortoise. Judging from the expressions of the people from South Wuchi, they did not seem to be afraid. They were just amazed. This Voidless Realm is actually able to call over the ancient divine beast, Black Tortoise, to help them out. Not bad at all. The huge body broke through the clouds and appeared before the eyes of the world. A-oh. The Black Tortoise let out a loud roar that pierced through heaven and earth. The helicopter next to it was instantly affected, causing it to stall. It swayed left and right as it descended. Fortunately, the pilot was an experienced driver. He pulled the helicopter up, but he didn't dare to go back. This was no different from courting death. Without the helicopter's broadcast, the scene disappeared in an instant. Countless people were cursing. Damn it, I'm already halfway through taking off my pants, and you're showing me a black screen. Can you broadcast properly? Hurry up and send someone over. However, no one was willing to go. It was no different from courting death. After all, compared to money, life was more precious. If the broadcast continued for one more second, they would be able to see the figure of the Supreme Overlord. On the back of the Black Tortoise, Yi Hua stood with his hands behind his back and stared at South Wuchi, who was not far away. This is the first time I'm fighting against South Wuchi, I naturally can't lose to him in terms of aura. You want me to walk down the stairs? Huh, you're thinking too much. Behind Yi Hua was Dong Huang Baiji, and beside Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were Dong Huang Baiji. Compared to South Wuchi, the black tortoise was already one size bigger. Especially when the black tortoise stepped out from the multicolored clouds, that scene was extremely shocking. South Wuchi appeared to be too small, just like a small sail in the sky. And as long as the black tortoise steps down, the entire South Wuchi would turn into a pile of ruins. However, Yi Hua did not intend to do that. The black tortoise could be seen walking forward slowly, and when it got close to South Wuchi, the black tortoise stretched out its body and steadily placed it on the stairs. Yi Hua walked forward slowly, and the 4 people behind him followed behind him unhurriedly. Their faces were brimming with confidence. At this moment, Kaiyun suddenly stood up, seemingly wanting to welcome Yi Hua's arrival. Yi Hua and the 4 people stepped onto the ground of South Wuchi, and the black tortoise behind him once again let out a sky-shaking roar. The black tortoise's pair of aged eyes stared fixedly at South Wuchi and the 4 people, seemingly wanting to use a move, Doom's Eyes. This is a warning to everyone in South Wuchi: if you dare to go overboard, then prepare to welcome the fury of a primordial divine beast. After using Doom's Eyes, the black tortoise slowly left and disappeared within the layer of clouds, as if it had never appeared before. Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata were already stupefied. Who is this man? Isn't the person behind him the Empress? Why is the Empress standing behind him? Hey, why would the black tortoise listen to you? Aren't you embarrassed? Kaiyun asked curiously. That black tortoise was a prideful and arrogant species among the primordial divine beasts, so how could it possibly listen to a human? Yi Hua looked at Kaiyun and said faintly, "Little wimp, what do you know?" Lucifer, Miyamoto Nagata thought to himself, this man must have angered Flag Master just now. To actually dare to call Flag Master a little wimp, this should be a huge crime. Flag Master, go. Kaiyun went into a daze for a moment, then shouted out loudly, "You are the one who is a little wimp. Your whole family is made up of little wimps." This kind of tone wasn't insulting, it was just like the helpless scolding of a child. Miyamoto Nagata was in disbelief. Flag Master, are you really a child? How can you say such a thing? Yu Hua stood up and shouted out coldly, "Voidless realm. As a guest. You all are very rude. I am also a reasonable person. The way I acted just now can be considered as ordinary. Is your South Wuchi very big? I will bring an even bigger one over and let you all know what is called a colossus. With just a single body, I will be the size of your entire South Wuchi." Impudent. You dare to be rude to his honor. Didn't your Flag Master teach you manners? Lai Gu wasn't careless either. Even the other party's subordinate is shouting at me, so how can I remain calm? When it comes to talking, I have never been afraid of anyone. The atmosphere in South Wuchi had already dropped to the freezing point, and it seemed like a huge battle was about to break out. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji wasn't afraid at all. Her husband's strong confidence had given her a firm belief. Furthermore, her husband would never do something that he wasn't sure of. At this moment, Lucifer suddenly stood up and said with a smile, "We are all civilized people, how about we sit down first?" All right. I like watching performances. Kaiyun clapped his hands in approval, appearing to be very excited. Sitting at the back, Yu Hua said in a low voice, "Flag Master, maintain your demeanor." Kaiyun pursed his lips. "No, I want to watch the performance. Flag Leader is right. Having a performance during the meal can increase one's appetite." Miyamoto Nagata immediately responded. Everything the Flag Master said was right. Even if he was wrong, he was still right. Death Mage could be seen slowly walking to the center, and did not say anything. He stabbed the scythe of death in his hand into the ground, and the hard ground immediately cracked like a spider web. "Allow me to perform for you." How did I train my hand speed? Miyamoto Shotai clearly wanted to curry favor with Kai Yun. Thus, he shouted out, "Ishida Hikaru, help liven things up for the flag master." "Yes, Miyamoto-sama." Ishida Hikaru walked out of his seat and looked at the black-cloaked skeleton in front of him. He did not seem surprised at all. "Please," Ishida Hikaru said faintly, then slowly walked down the stairs in the center and arrived at the platform below. Death Mage was also the kind of person who did not speak much. His figure instantly disappeared and directly appeared at the platform below. Meanwhile, everyone sat on the platform and admired the performance. Fun. Kai Yun clapped his hands happily. This made Yu Hua, who was at the back, feel helpless. Once a flag master is happy, she would not be able to control herself. "Yi Hua, how is this flag master?" Dong Wang Baiji said in a low voice. "This flag master is different from the flag master in my mind." Yi Hua patted on the back of Dong Wang Baiji's hand. "Let's take a look first. This flag master is not that simple." Dong Wang Baiji nodded her head. To be able to become the flag master of Namo flags, how is it possible for him to not have some skills? On the platform, Death Mage looked at Ishida Hikaru, who was in front of him. A black katana condensed in the latter's hand, and he held the katana with both hands. Ishida Hikaru. According to the rules of the world, Ishida Hikaru first reported his name. However, Death Mage also knew the rules. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Death Mage hugged the death scythe in his hands. This action of hugging the death scythe stunned Kai Yun. Afterward, Kai Yun laughed out loudly, "Ha ha ha. Fun, this is too fun, I like this skeleton." Lucifer was also very astonished. In such a serious scene, that black-cloaked skeleton actually dared to be so reckless. Is he looking down on his opponent, or is he very confident in his own strength? Miyamoto Shotai was very angry. The veins on the back of his hands were all bulging out. My opponent is obviously looking down on me. When Death Mage took out his iPhone XS other than Yi Hua, everyone else was stupefied, especially Kai Yun. He directly jumped out, "I like this skeleton." Yu Hua hugged onto Kai Yun. "Flag Master, be a bit more reserved." Yu Hua had no choice but to hug onto the Flag Master. Kai Yun was very unhappy. "It wasn't easy for me to meet an interesting life form, I still want to interact more with him." As Death Mage's opponent, Ishida Hikaru was already angered to the point that the katana in his hands was trembling. "You are actually playing a game." Death Mage was just playing a game normally. He typed out a few words, then scrolled and played. "Please call me Master Mage." Looking at the words that Death Mage typed out, Ishida Hikaru was about to explode from anger. This is simply a blatant insult. Although Kai Yun was being hugged by Yu Hua, Kai Yun still shouted out loudly, "Little brother skeleton, do your best, I have high hopes for you." Everyone, especially Yi Hua, he was even more speechless. Is this flag master's brain retarded? I am here to cause trouble, and you are actually cheering for my subordinate. This is the first time that I have met such a weird opponent. Lai Gu and Yizizi were also rather surprised. They have a deep understanding of this flag master. This degree of weirdness is even more awesome than Do Fusher. To actually insult me. I will throw your bones into the toilet bowl to wash them. Ishida Hikaru couldn't take it anymore, and the katana in his hands released out a strong light. "Rachel!" Ishida Hikaru shouted out explosively, and the katana in his hands released out dazzling lightning. His entire person was just like a walking cheetah. However, Death Mage's figure had already disappeared. Chapter 705. Ishida Hikaru looked at his own body blankly. He was still standing there, and the katana in his hand was still releasing its skill, just that it had not been released yet. Where is this? Why am I seeing my own body? Why am I seeing my own head? Other than Yi Hua, everyone else looked at this scene in a daze. Ishida Hikaru's head could be seen hanging on Death Mage's death scythe. In that instant just now, Death Mage raised his speed to the extreme, intending to shock Death Mage right from the start. It must be said that Death Mage has a brain now. This is what the so-called shock looks like. Death Mage took out his phone again and typed on it, then placed it on the screen, weak chicken. Ishida Hikaru looked at his own body falling down, but his mind was still clear. This kind of situation is inexplicable, and he is terrified to the extreme. Only now did Ishida Hikaru realize that he was about to die, and with unwillingness, he breathed his last breath. Nice. Too nice. I still want to watch, Kai-yun immediately shouted out his inner thoughts. As a member of a different race, he definitely had a favorable impression towards Death Mage, who was also a different race. Also, that killing method of Death Mage, it was simply too cool. Just what race is this black robe from? That kind of high-speed movement just now, I actually couldn't feel it at all. This mysterious East is indeed very scary. Luckily, I listened to my subordinate's words and didn't come over. If I had come across this black robe, I would definitely have died. Miyamoto Nagata was very angry, but he was not stupid. This black robe instantly killed Ishida Hikaru. This strength is already very scary, and I am not his opponent at all. Thus, Miyamoto Nagata squeezed out a smile and said respectfully, Flag Master, sorry for disturbing your mood. My subordinate did not bring any joy to Flag Master. The heart of the fatty Nakata Senda, who was standing at the back, sunk. I didn't expect that Miyamoto-sama would actually try to curry favor with Flag Master this much. Ishida Hikaru's death was actually just to bring joy to the Flag Master, and he even apologized for it. Miyamoto-sama, back then when you sat on this position, us brothers had helped you a lot. Kai-yun waved his hand, not putting Miyamoto Nagata in his eyes at all. It's fine, I am very happy. After all, you guys are too weak. Miyamoto Nagata. Kai-yun learned quite quickly, and immediately used the word weak chicken. Death Mage was still standing below the stage, waiting for his opponent to come onto the stage. As his honor subordinate, I must definitely help his honor regain some face. Yihua hugged onto Donghuang Baiji and began showing off his woman. Soon after, Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Donghuang Baiji had no other choice. Her husband liked to do this, and as long as she cooperated with him, it would be fine. Therefore, Donghuang Baiji snuggled into her husband's embrace shyly. This shyness was not an act. She was indeed a little embarrassed. Smoking a cigarette and hugging the most beautiful woman in the world, what a joy. Yihua said faintly, the performance still has to continue, why don't we call for a slightly stronger person? There's no point in watching an instant kill. That's right. We have to be strong against strong. I like to be strong. Kai-yun echoed. Yihua almost choked on the smoke that he was smoking. My opponent's IQ is not on the same channel as mine. It is really F***king hard to communicate with. Which one of you will go and perform for me? Kai-yun looked at Lucifer and Shotai Miyamoto and asked. Following Kai-yun's words, Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagatake's expressions changed drastically. The black-robed man below was so terrifying. He was no match for him at all. Miyamoto Nagatake hurriedly said, Flag Master, my strength is limited, and I am unable to give Flag Master a pleasant feeling. Why don't we just let him go on stage? Miyamoto Nagatake kicked the ball to Lucifer, and this caused Lucifer to almost go berserk. What a shameless man. Kai-yun pouted his mouth, to think that you can say such weak words. Why did I call for you? Flag. Before Miyamoto Nagatake could finish speaking, he felt a chill on his neck. Yihua and Donghuang Baiji's brows became wrinkled. Those 5 people did not make any movements just now, and the one who made a move was definitely that White Bones. Indeed, just like what Li Hun said, this White Bones is very strange. Yihua sent a voice transmission to Lai Gu and asked, Did you feel anything? Reporting to your honor, I did not feel any movements from Bai Gu. Lai Gu also became calm. This White Bones is indeed ghostly. Yi Zizi said lightly, Your honor, Zizi did not feel anything either. Hearing what his 2 subordinates said, Yihua let them go. Luckily, it's not that I can't feel anything, I can't feel anything. Yihua became slightly more balanced. Miyamoto Nagatake touched his neck and looked at Kai Yun, who was grinning happily. That expression of his seemed to be asking, "Why did you suddenly want to kill me?" "I wanted to join you all." However, Kai Yun didn't want weak chickens at all. In her eyes, weak chickens should all die, and it would be a waste of food to keep them alive. Blood flowed out from Kai Yun's neck. It was very scary. Nakata Yasuda, who was standing at the back, didn't dare to move. He didn't even know what happened just now. Miyamoto Nagatake's head fell onto the table from his neck, causing the food on the table to overturn. Because Miyamoto Nagatake was in a kneeling position, his body didn't fall onto the ground, and it seemed as if he wasn't dead yet. "Yi Hua, this flag master is trying to show us her strength," Dong Huang Baiji said lightly. Yi Hua nodded his head. He understood very well why Kai Yun did this. "I feel that I have underestimated her a bit. Her Chinibu seems to be faking, her brain is still very normal, and she knows how to use this kind of method to scare me. But, do you think that I am scared?" Right now, Lucifer was already stupefied, and he even felt that he was going to die soon. Meyer, who was standing at the back, also had the same feeling, and he felt as if he was going to see a bloodstain appearing on Lord Lucifer's neck. Such a thing won't happen. Kai Yun only wanted to kill someone to scare Yi Hua. After all, Yi Hua had just killed someone right before her eyes, and this was a blatant provocation. As the flag master, how could she allow such a thing to happen? "The performance continues, White Bones, you go up," Kai Yun shouted while beaming. White Bones' voice rang out from the air, "Yes." Lucifer let out a breath of relief. "I knew that this meal wouldn't be delicious. Even if I don't get killed, I will be scared to death." Nakata Yasuda's mood was the same as well, to the point that he didn't even dare to move recklessly, fearing that the flag master would kill him if she were to become unhappy. However, when he heard that White Bones was going to fight against the Black Robe, Nakata Yasuda was also very curious. Just who would win? Right now, Lucifer was also curious. That White Bones movement technique is too strange. I wonder how many rounds this skeleton can last. As for Yi Hua, he continued to smoke his cigarette while hugging onto the beauty, and he seemed to be very at ease. That White Bones is indeed strange, but in the end, it is only strange. If it wants to kill someone, it has to come into contact with the other party. What if the other party has absolute defense? If that is the case, the existence of the White Bones would be meaningless. Although I, the Supreme Overlord, have no way to deal with you right now, I have a way to get rid of your injuries. Chapter 706. Furthermore, the script was playing out according to my plan. Death Mage being the first to appear was also arranged by me. He predicted that they would let White Bones go up first, so he gave Death Mage an armor. The name was simple. That was absolute defense. However, what Yi Hua was worried about right now was whether or not this absolute defense would be able to defend against White Bones' attack. Because Yi Hua knew that there were no absolutes in this world. Just like this set of armor, in front of Yi Hua's main body, it was still like a piece of white paper, unable to withstand a single blow. So now it was time to see how strong White Bone was, or rather, how strong its strength was. Could it destroy absolute defense? If it could, then, I can only rely on Lai Gu and Yizizi to regain back my face. Actually, in Yi Hua's heart, it would be the best result for this battle to end in a draw. After all, he had yet to find the White Bone's weak point, and the probability of killing it was too low. Yi Hua lightly let out a mouthful of smoke and said faintly, "This person is my subordinate. You all have to be careful when dealing with him." Subordinate? Lucifer was shocked. If his subordinate was already so powerful, then how powerful was his subordinate? How powerful was he himself? This damned East, why are there so many monsters in the East? This is completely unfair. Did their strength come out from their mother's womb? Kai Yun was slightly surprised as well. Then wouldn't you be even more powerful? Of course. Yi Hua said lightly. After I finished speaking, I felt that something was wrong. Why did I pay attention to a little brat's words? I was led astray by her. F***ck me. Shall we perform it later? Kai Yun's eyes shone with the light of excitement, and he was even trembling slightly. This was the excitement of an expert meeting another expert. Yu Hua could feel the flag master's excitement, but she didn't say anything. This was normal behavior. Yi Hua said indifferently, beat up my subordinates first. Alright. White Bones, you have to do your best. And little brother Skeleton, you have to do your best too. Kai Yun shouted at the two below. Today was simply too fun. This Bai Gu even said that Voidless Realm is very weak. Voidless Realm is clearly very strong, okay? Yet, he actually lied to me. Death Mage was holding onto the death scythe. There wasn't any expression on his skeletal face. Even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to. Death Mage was also trying to sense the location of the White Bones, but it was a pity that he was unable to find anything. This is the strangest opponent that I have ever met. It is no wonder that the White Bones were able to escape from his honor's hands. As expected, the White Bones are very powerful. Death Mage did not dare to be careless. It made a jjj sound. Top defense boost. Advanced speed boost. Increased bone hardness. All kinds of top-notch defensive enhancements. Instantly, Death Mage's body emitted out a multicolored radiance, strengthening his defense to the extreme. Looking at Death Mage's expression, Kai Yun said in a low voice, very smart. Yu Hua caressed Kai Yun's beautiful hair and said softly, they are very strong. The two people standing behind them are even stronger than this skeleton. I think so too. Wild Sand, let's see what their true forms are, Kai Yun asked curiously. The scarecrow that was sitting at the side took a look at Yi Zizi and Lai Gu, and its pair of eyeballs that were hanging on the straw couldn't help but make people's scalp go numb. Flag Master, that man was transformed from a bone dragon, and he is one of the more commonly seen undead race. As for that ponytail girl, her original body is a bit special. Kwang Sha said gravely. Kai Yun went into a slight daze. To be able to make Kwang Sha say these words, her background definitely isn't small. What do you mean? Kai Yun continued to ask. Kwang Sha said gravely, Flag Master, do you still remember a powerful race that was recorded in the records? Kai Yun's gaze became serious. Kwang Sha, are you talking about the Taotai race? The Taotai race is born with a powerful innate skill of devouring, and they are able to transform the enemy's strength into a part of themselves. The Taotai race was also the most glorious race back then. Kwang Sha said slowly. However, they had only heard of the Taotai race, and had never come into contact with them. Because, when they were mingling around, the Taotai race had already disappeared long ago, and only terrifying legends were left behind. Kai Yun muttered, I didn't expect that I would come across the Taotai race here today, and furthermore, I am appearing as someone else's subordinate. This is too interesting. Yu Hua said vigilantly, Flag Master, the scariest thing about the Taotai race is that they release their original body to fight. You cannot underestimate them. I understand. Kai Yun naturally understood, but he also wanted to see just how violent the Taotai race's original body was. Back then, when Yi Hua was fighting against Yi Zizi didn't even release her original body. To be more precise, she was preparing to release her original body, but was controlled by Yi Hua. In actuality, Yi Hua still didn't know that right now, Yi Zizi hadn't reached her peak state at all, and could only be considered as a little fellow. If Yi Zizi were to reach the peak state of the Taotai race, it would really make the entire world tremble. The strength of the Taotai race was unquestionable. Wei Chang and Zhu Tian's races were also rather rare, and of course, there were the other two 7 deadly sins. Within the entire 7 deadly sins, only Brett could be considered as a person. What race is that man? Kai Yun asked curiously. Kwang Sha said respectfully, that man is just an undead. I'm a little disappointed. Kai Yun spread out his hands helplessly. I thought that Yi Hua was a powerful race, but it turns out that he is just an undead. There's no helping it, undead are too common. What about that woman? Kai Yun looked towards Dong Huang Baiji. Huang Sha paused for a moment, then said, that woman has a special scent, she seems to be the same as those people who sealed us. Oh. Did this woman have such a relationship? Things have become interesting. Kai Yun's heart was trembling. Wonderful. He needed these powerful opponents. This subordinate doesn't dare to be certain, Huang Sha added. Because Dong Huang Baiji's body was no longer pure. Because Dong Huang Baiji's child, Dong Huang Baiji's bloodline had been tainted by Yi Hua's bloodline. Thus, the aura within Dong Huang Baiji's body would become a lot more mixed up, and Dong Huang Baiji's body would no longer be that pure. Although it wasn't pure, the benefits it brought were much stronger than pure ones. Yi Hua and Dong Huang Baiji could sense that these people were sizing them up, and they seemed to be communicating with each other through sound transmission. At this moment, Yi Hua sent a sound transmission to Yi Zizi. Let's see what their true forms are. Yes, Your Honor. Yi Zizi's scarlet eyes looked towards the 5 people. He got what he wanted in an instant. But, he didn't know what to call it, so he could only summarize it. Your Honor, that woman is the same as the video, she has a lot of water in her body. Yi Zizi said. Yi Hua nodded his head, and his gaze drifted towards Yu Hua. A woman with a lot of water, I wonder if I can burn her with fire or not. If it was ordinary water, it would definitely work. Chapter 707. Hearing Yi Zizi's expression, Yi Hua paused for a moment, then lowered his head and looked at Dong Huang Baiji who was in his embrace. Looking at her husband's astonished expression, Dong Huang Baiji was a bit puzzled. What does he mean? Just what kind of creature is that? Yi Hua asked gravely. Yi Zizi expressed that she wasn't sure. In any case, it is the kind that has a lot of water. Yi Hua gave up on asking, next. Your Honor, that Luo Ho who is holding a fan is a light. Yi Zizi didn't know how to describe it, it was the kind of bright light. Light? Yi Hua was a bit surprised. These people are all elementals, no wonder I can't kill them, they are indeed powerful. Continue. That ugly one is a lump of fire. Yi Zizi said. Hearing Yi Zizi's words, Yi Hua confirmed his guess. As expected, they are all elementals. I have never seen such a race before, they are indeed powerful. What is that scarecrow? Yi Hua asked. A lump of black, I don't know what it is. A lump of black? Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. Is this something that belongs to darkness? Then, what is this flag master? Yi Hua asked again. It only has one eye. Yi Zizi was a bit astonished. The flag master's original body and its current appearance formed a clear contrast. It actually only has one eye, it looks very scary. Yi Hua asked gravely, is there no other body part? Nope, it is just a huge eye. Yi Zizi said in a low voice. This kind of body is even more frightening than Wei Chang. Yi Hua didn't ask anything else and entered into deep thoughts. This was also why the 5 flags sealed the flag master. The flag master wasn't an elemental life form, but they were. The reason why the 5 flags sealed the flag master was to protect the flag master, and no matter what they did, they couldn't die. Thus, they could only be sealed and wait for the right time to summon the flag master out. Seems like Nan Wuchi got into big trouble back then, otherwise, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Yi Hua looked towards Death Mage. I hope that Death Mage won't embarrass me today. If I can fight to a draw, I will be rewarded. If I can kill the white bones, that would be the best, but the hope is very slim. Death Mage, who had all sorts of defenses, sensed the airflow in the surroundings, hoping to find the location of the white bones. This idea is indeed good, but the white bones is like air, it can control the airflow. Suddenly, Death Mage felt that there was movement in the 9:00 direction. Without thinking too much, he held onto the death scythe in his hand and slashed towards it. Boom! A huge crater was created on the hard ground by the death scythe, and a red light flashed past Death Mage's empty eyes. I've been tricked. In an instant, Death Mage stretched out his bony hand towards his back. Spreading out his 5 eerie white fingers, a black shield instantly appeared. Bang! A huge force slammed into the shield, setting off a violent shockwave. Cracks could be seen appearing on the surface of the black barrier, and the cracks looked just like glass, causing Death Mage to be startled in his heart. The other party was indeed very powerful. At the instant when Death Mage was absent-minded, a powerful pressure came from the other side. Looking at this time, Yihua's expression sunk. This White Bone's attack is really strange and ever-changing. It was obviously attacking on the shield, but in the blink of an eye, it would appear on the other side. This is not the benefit brought by speed, this is the advantage of race. Death Mage also knew the consequences of being hit, so he did not think too much about it. Absolute defense. In an instant, a set of pitch-black armor condensed on top of the Death Mage's white bones, covering 100% of the Death Mage's body. There was also a red cloak on his back, and together with the Death Scythe in his hands, he looked extremely cool. Bang! Although Death Mage had summoned out absolute defense, the punch of the white bones still landed onto the left side of Death Mage's abdomen. The huge impact caused Death Mage to be sent flying away like a cannonball. Luo Ho, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, suddenly opened his folding fan, and a golden halo enveloped the entire South Wuchi flag. Meanwhile, Death Mage, who was sent flying away, fiercely crashed onto the golden halo, and the golden halo slightly trembled for a bit. The reason why Luo Ho did this was to not let Death Mage fly too far away. If not, the Flag Master wouldn't be able to enjoy the wonderful battle. Death Mage's body could be seen directly falling onto the ground, smashing out a deep hole on the ground. Right now, Death Mage still had a lingering fear in his heart. Just a moment ago, I was almost done for. My defense was completely useless. If not for the absolute defense that his honor gave me, I would have directly lost my life. Death Mage can still be summoned by his honor, but losing face for his honor is not allowed. Death Mage, who was lying on the ground, suddenly stood up, then slightly lowered his head and took a look at the left side of his abdomen. A small dent actually appeared on the black absolute defense. How is this possible? A dent actually appeared on the item that his honor took out. This strength is too terrifying. Yihua also saw that inconspicuous dent, and his brows slightly wrinkled. This white bone's strength is truly not bad, to actually be able to make an inconspicuous dent on absolute defense. However, at this moment, Kai Yun was also very surprised. This set of armor is pretty good, it has already reached the level of Great Desolate Era. Kai Yun said with a smile. Yihua said tenderly, that's right, but what this white bone specializes in isn't strength, it is a bit of a pity. Kai Yun nodded his head. The advantage that the white bone race had was indeed very strong, and it made people's hearts turn cold. However, at the same time, the white bone race was a bit weak in another aspect, and that was strength. The reason why the white bone race was at the bottom of the Five Flags battle team was because the white bone race's strength was much weaker than the white bone race. If it was Luo Ho's attack just now, the result would definitely be different. After all, the white bone race had such an abnormally strong advantage. If the white bone race's strength was abnormally strong as well, who would be a match for the white bone race? Death Mage was very angry right now. Although he didn't have the time to pay attention to his honor's expression, he was able to guess that his honor's expression should be very unhappy. After all, he had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Compared to Death Mage, the white bone race seemed to be even more surprised right now. My attack only left a small mark on that set of armor. How is this possible? What kind of armor is this? Its defensive ability is completely restraining me. This situation is very bad. Big Brother Skeleton, this set of armor is not bad, did you give it to me? Bai Yin asked Yihua with a joyous look on his face. Yihua's gaze looked at the stage and said faintly, they are all trash, take them out and use them. Kai Yun, can you not act cool? You are still quite handsome when you are not acting cool, humph, Kai Yun snorted. When I came out to act cool, who knows where you were? Dong Wang Baiji agreed with what Kaiyun said. When Yihua is not acting cool, he is still quite handsome, but when he is acting cool, I feel a bit weird. Hearing that, Yihua snorted coldly and did not pay any attention to this brat. What a waste of my saliva. Chapter 708. Right now, Lucifer had completely become a passerby. In Europe, he was a boss existence, and everyone who saw him would have to address him respectfully. However, sitting here, Lucifer didn't feel good at all. He was completely ignored, and he even felt that he was too small. Just a sneeze from the opponent would make him tremble with fear for a long time. Nakata Genta's entire body stiffened. The reason why he was still able to stand was because he couldn't feel his legs anymore. He felt that he was definitely going to die. If it was me, I would have already died. This voidless realm is indeed formidable, even an underling's underling is so arrogant. On the battlefield, Death Mage raised up his death scythe. Death Mage didn't look like a master mage, instead, he looked like a fearless warrior. GGG, Imperial Translation, Absolute Domain. Death Mage had no other choice but to release his absolute domain to defend against the enemy. Death Mage had no other choice but to release his absolute domain to defend against the enemy. Within the absolute domain, Death Mage was like a god, and he was able to perceive everything. Although absolute domain was very powerful, absolute domain wasn't a vacuum, there was still air within it. If that was the case, the white bones would still be able to survive. Death Mage released his absolute domain and immediately began searching for the location of the white bones. However, what made Death Mage exclaim in surprise was that he was still unable to find the white bones. This absolute domain can't be fake, right? Darkness protection. Death Mage shouted, and a layer of protection gradually fused with the armor, greatly increasing the defense of the armor. Darkness barrier. Death Mage continued using his defensive technique and enveloped his body within the barrier. Death Mage's actions had already made it clear that he was planning to use his defense to defend against the white bones. Because there was no way for him to attack the white bones, and right now, the white bones also had no way to attack him. Just like what his honor said, as long as the battle ends in a draw, it would be my victory. After all, the white bones is an underling's underling, and the white bones is one of the 5 flags. If the battle ends in a draw, it would be our loss. The white bones silently scolded Death Mage for being shameless. To actually calculate that I am weak and strengthen my defense. Ha! The white bones shouted out angrily and attacked again. There was still no spiritual energy fluctuation. Death Mage seemed to have given up on searching and just stood at his original spot. Death Mage could see that his darkness barrier had already been broken through, but it had also reduced quite a bit of the white bone's power. When the white bone's fist came into contact with his darkness barrier, it was more or less like scratching an itch. Death Mage even stood at his original spot and withstood the white bone's barrier. One must know that the absolute domain was also weakening the white bone's power, and adding Death Mage's various defenses. The white bones' weakness had already been displayed to the extreme. Following the destruction of the dark barrier, Death Mage condensed another barrier. After that, white bones could be seen attacking with all its might. However, all of its attacks were in vain. It was no longer able to send Death Mage flying, and it was also unable to leave any marks on absolute defense. So, there was only one reason why white bones was at the bottom. When it encountered someone with an extremely strong defense, white bones couldn't do anything, and the opponent couldn't do anything to it either, so it could only be in a stalemate. On the other hand, white bones' role in the team was mostly to scout and display white bones' strength. The battle was basically done by others. Looking at the situation on the battlefield, Yihua could be considered to be slightly relieved. For Death Mage to be able to do this much, it is already very good. Now, it all depends on whether or not Death Mage is able to find the weak point of the white bones. That's right, other than making Death Mage fight to a draw, Yihua had an even more important task. That was to look for white bones' weakness during the battle. Right now, Death Mage was also carrying out a mission. Death Mage did not have to worry about getting injured, so he could calmly evaluate White Bones. Look for weaknesses in each of its attacks. Suddenly, Death Mage seemed to have thought of something. GGG, Imperial Translation, Space Seal. An unknown black substance suddenly emerged from the four corners of Death Mage's surroundings, and it actually formed into a black rectangular box, enveloping Death Mage within it. Death Mage stood inside the box and quietly waited for White Bones' attack. However, after waiting for quite a while, White Bones still didn't attack. Space Seal. Inside the box was a vacuum environment. There was no air. However, if there was no air, how was Death Mage going to breathe? Does an undead need to breathe? White Bones looked down at the huge black box and felt that there was no air inside the box, so it could only stare blankly. It was a pity that Death Mage's ability was limited. If he were to expand the radius of the Space Seal, that would be the time of death for White Bones. Who said that elemental races were unkillable? It was just that they didn't find a way to kill them. In this world, there is no race that cannot be killed. There are only strong individuals that cannot be killed. Yihua seemed to have seen through something as well, and a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Death Mage is still quite smart. Not bad, not bad. I, the Supreme Overlord, like you very much. It was not a waste for me to introduce a beauty like Sun Fong to you. If you perform well, I will bestow you a physical body and let you enjoy being a man. Kai Yun was a bit unhappy. Yihua said in a low voice, Flag Master, let White Bones come back. If this goes on, the other party would be able to find White Bones' weakness. Yihua also began to worry. The other party had evidently realized that White Bones was weak, and if they were to continue wasting time like this, no one would be able to win against the other. However, what Yihua was worried about was that the other party would be able to find White Bones' weakness. However, Yihua basically already knew of White Bones' weakness. Little wimp, seems like your subordinate is unable to defeat my subordinate's subordinate. Yihua said faintly, indicating that you all are very weak, to not even be able to defeat my subordinate's subordinate. Kai Yun was very angry and said, you are the little wimp, if you have the ability, then get your subordinate to take off his clothes. What a joke. This is making use of resources. You can also put on clothes for White Bones. Yihua said in disdain. If this White Bones were to put on clothes, wouldn't it be equivalent to revealing itself? Therefore, this White Bones cannot wear anything. If not, it would lose its usefulness. You. Acting shamelessly. White Bones, come back. Kai Yun pouted her small mouth and flew into a rage, calling White Bones, who was in the middle of the stage, back. When White Bones heard Flag Master's words, it took one last look at the black box, then returned behind Flag Master unwillingly. Flag Master, subordinate has failed in his duty. White Bones, this is not your fault, it is the enemy who is too cunning. Kai Yun said angrily. I heard that undead are usually very stupid, but why does this undead have a brain? This is really strange. Yihua laughed out loud. Death Mage, you have done well. Death Mage bowed respectfully in front of Yihua. It is subordinate's fault that subordinate was unable to defeat the other party. It's fine, it's fine. Yihua felt great in his heart. This time, not only did I manage to get back my face, I even found out White Bones' weakness. So it turns out that in a vacuum, White Bones doesn't have any methods to deal with White Bones. I wonder if I will die in a vacuum? This is truly an exciting experiment. Lucifer was stupefied. I didn't expect that White Bones and this skeleton would be able to fight to a draw. This is too exaggerated, right? Chapter 709. In the end, Death Mage cheated a bit and wore absolute defense. If not for this armor, Death Mage would have most likely lost. But just like what Yihua said, this was the use of resources, so why can't I let my subordinate use it? Although Death Mage managed to fight to a draw by relying on absolute defense, he also found out about White Bones' weakness. If they were to fight again, Death Mage would be able to grasp onto White Bones' weakness and continue fighting. From how Yun Kai stopped White Bones just now, it could be seen that she didn't want White Bones to continue fighting. Yi Hua suddenly picked up his chopsticks and ate a piece of mapo tofu, then said with a smile, so fragrant. Kai Yun clenched his fists in anger. You. Again. Lai Gu, go and exercise a bit. Yi Hua slowly placed down his chopsticks and said lightly. Lai Gu answered respectfully, yes. Your Honor. Hearing Lai Gu's words, Kai Yun said in disdain, you still call yourself Your Honor? I have killed quite a number of people who call themselves Your Honor. I am the same as well. Yi Hua said faintly. Kai Yun pouted his mouth. This man is too good at acting cool, I must definitely teach him a lesson. Flag Master, let subordinate fight for you. Yu Hua stood up and said. You must win. Flag Master, don't worry. Yu Hua's beautiful eyes turned cold as she looked towards Lai Gu. Lai Gu didn't hesitate, he looked straight at Yu Hua and even stretched out his index and middle fingers and started shaking intensely. The naive South Wuchi people didn't know what Lai Gu's hand gesture meant. But the others knew, especially Nakata Genta. He was dumbstruck. This kind of hand speed is indeed impressive. It is impossible to train without a few years of training, and with this kind of hand speed, one would be invincible, any woman would like it. Dong Wang Baiji pinched Yi Hua angrily and said softly, look at your subordinate. Yi Hua silently stretched out his index and middle fingers, then looked at the beauty in his embrace and said, Baiji, let's go back and try tonight. Go and die. The Empress's face instantly turned red, feeling that her husband was going to be led astray by Lai Gu. Yi Hua laughed lightly, then lightly hugged onto his wife's body, preparing to watch Lai Gu fight against a woman with a lot of water. And Yi Hua had also told Lai Gu before to never reveal his true body. Because back then, during the battle between Voidless Realm and Ning family, Lai Gu's true body was revealed, and he had even injured the Empress. Even now, the Empress was still brooding over it, and Yi Hua had also heard quite a few of the Empress's complaints. She even wanted me to help her take revenge. She said that back then, when I was beaten up so badly, you don't even feel sorry for your wife, and even asked Yi Hua to stew that bone dragon. As expected, Lai Gu was unable to escape the fate of being stewed. Right now, Lai Gu was walking down the stairs absent-mindedly. His honor did not allow me to reveal my true form, and that would depend on how strong the opponent is. If this woman were to drown me with water, then it would not be easy for me to reveal my true form. However, when his honor's true body is exposed, his honor's family, internal strife might once again occur in the family. However, if they found out that it was all just a show, the consequences would be terrifying. Standing below, Lai Gu looked at the moonlight slowly descending. It must be said that this woman was very alluring. Every step she took was so graceful. That Cyan Chongsam accentuated her figure, and there was even a slit at the side of her thigh, revealing her spotlessly white long legs to the air from time to time. This kind of feeling made Lai Gu's heart itch. Facing a woman who was like water, Lai Gu seemed to be unable to maintain his calm. Of course, I have to maintain my gentlemanly demeanor. Who knows, I might even have a wonderful chance encounter with her. Therefore, Lai Gu waved his hand towards the moonlight once again. Hello, I am Lai Gu. Moonlight. Moonlight muttered. There wasn't much fluctuation in her emotions. This caused Lai Gu to be given the cold shoulder, causing Lai Gu to be very unhappy. Dong Wang Baiji looked at the lecherous Lai Gu and said in a low voice, Yi Hua, don't learn from Lai Gu's bad habit of flirting with girls whenever you see them. Yi Hua once again stretched out his index finger and middle finger. Dong Wang Baiji hammered her husband unhappily, but her heart was still thumping madly. Women were all like this. Even if they said no, they were just being reserved. In fact, they needed it very much, perhaps more than men needed it. Lucifer admired Lai Gu very much. He actually dares to take liberties with a woman from Nanwuchi, awesome. He didn't know how many years he would be sentenced for flirting with the flag master. It seemed like the flag master was already an adult. Nakata Kenta also felt that Yuehua was very beautiful. Her skin was as clear as water, and her beauty had an aura of nature to it. It made people lose themselves in it and not want to get up. Kai Yun pouted, looking very unhappy. You actually dared to take liberties with someone else's moonlight. I'll stew you later. The four people who were sitting at the back were staring fixedly at the scene, wanting to see just how powerful Voidless Realm was. Just now, the opponent had won in terms of equipment. That was White Bone's weakness, which was easy to target. However, Yuehua was different. Her battle prowess was not on the same level as White Bone's. In fact, even if Yuehua fought against White Bones, the result would still be a draw. In order to eliminate a foreign race like White Bones, apart from knowing how to exploit its weakness, luck was also needed. However, they might not know that when Lai Gu's strength is compared to Death Mage, the difference is like the difference between heaven and earth. There was no doubt about this. Beauty Yuehua. How about we make a bet? Lai Gu began to play tricks again. There's no helping it, this woman made of water looks like my heart is itching. I really can't help it. Even if I get scolded by his honor, I still have to say it out. Yuehua silently took a look at Lai Gu. Speak. If I lose, I, Lai Gu, will be at your mercy. Then, what if I lose? Yuehua asked. Lai Gu was waiting for Yuehua to say this. Then, you will be my wife. Lai Gu said with a smile. Looking at Yuhua's body, Lai Gu was about to drool. As expected of a member of the dragon race, to be born with this kind of character. The corner of Yuhua's mouth twitched. At a time like this, you are actually talking about this. Do you believe that I, the Supreme Overlord, will stew you? I, the Supreme Overlord, came here to look for face. Yet, you actually arranged a marriage with me. What the F***K? Even Dong Wang Baiji couldn't help but cover her forehead in embarrassment. Lucifer's lower jaw was about to drop onto the table. This high school student sure has guts. Nakata Kenta also wanted to say something like this, but he didn't dare to. Meanwhile, South Wuchi's people were also endlessly astonished. There is actually someone who made such a request to Yuehua, my god. After hearing what Lai Gu said, Yuehua didn't have too much of a fluctuation in her emotions. She merely went into a daze for a moment. You want me to be your wife? Lai Gu nodded his head vigorously. I really want to press Yuehua onto the bed right now and rub myself against her. This is fate. Just now, I was the one who walked onto the stage. If Yuehua didn't walk onto the stage, I wouldn't have such a state of mind. However, it just so happened that Yuehua was the one who walked onto the stage. This is fate. This is a great marriage arranged by the heavens, therefore, I, the king, have to cherish it and let my harem have another beautiful woman. Chapter 710. I cannot agree to your bet, Yuehua said seriously. This time, Lai Gu became anxious. Such a beautiful woman cannot be my woman, how can that be allowed? I have already missed out on Zishan. Li Hun. Twins. I don't want to miss out on them anymore, why can't I agree to it? Lai Gu hurriedly asked. Because my matters are all up to you, Flag Master, Yuehua said calmly. It seemed as though she would do whatever the Flag Master said. When Yuehua heard what Lai Gu said, he pondered for a while. Seems like Lai Gu's plan is not bad. Disintegrating the enemy's internal unity. Brilliant. As expected of the Supreme Overlord subordinates. Not only did they get to enjoy themselves, they also made the enemy depressed, killing two birds with one stone. Lai Gu had become smarter. Now, it all depended on Kai Yun's reaction. Lai Gu shouted out towards Flag Master, say something, are you going to bet or not? Sure. If you win, Yuehua will be yours. Kai Yun didn't think too much and directly made the bet. This was also the trust he had for his subordinate. Kai Yun's gaze turned cold, and he continued, if you lose, I'm going to stew you. Lai Gu directly ignored the latter half of his honor sentence. I have been stewed by his honor for several hundred years, and I am still doing fine. Today, I am going to hug a beauty and return home. Look, your flag master has already agreed to it. Lai Gu said happily. This time around, there isn't anyone who is going to snatch my woman away from me, right? Yu Hua nodded. Sure. Then, I want to consummate my marriage tonight. Lai Gu was very anxious, and he wished that he could go to consummate his marriage right now. Sure. Yu Hua's voice was still that ordinary. This caused Lai Gu's interest to increase greatly. I like this kind of cold beauty. This kind of beauty is comparable to my own Wenxia. I don't know if they will be angry if I bring another woman home. It couldn't be. Lai Gu did not have any weapons, and he relied on his own hands to achieve his dreams. Yu Hua clenched her hand, and a long saber made of clear water appeared. The saber was very long. The blade was at least 2 meters long. The water flow on the sword was clearly visible, and it seemed very strange. As expected of a woman that is made of water, even her weapon is made of water, I wonder. Lai Gu entered YY, and the corner of his mouth revealed out a shameful daydream. Yu Hua wouldn't be lenient, and her body instantly disappeared from where she was. This caused Lai Gu to come back to his senses, and a sense of danger immediately assaulted him. Lai Gu thought to himself, this woman is a bit weak. With a low shout, Lai Gu's body exploded out with powerful spirit energy, then he punched out with his fist. Yu Hua's beautiful figure also appeared, and the water blade in her hand was currently piercing towards Lai Gu's fist. Without any suspense, it was as if Lai Gu's fist had smashed onto an ordinary water surface. The water blade was basically unable to withstand such an attack and dissipated. However, Yu Hua appeared very calm, as if she had already expected this result. Yu Hua, I am very strong, you have to treat me seriously. Lai Gu grinned and said. Today, I will let you see my strength as a man. Whether it was in bed or out of bed, it was second to none. Yu Hua said softly, you also have to take it seriously. Thank you for your concern. Lai Gu's heart felt warm. This isn't even my wife yet, and she is already so concerned about me. If she becomes my wife, wouldn't I die of warmth? Just as Lai Gu finished speaking, his pupils instantly shrunk. Before he could even think, he punched out with his left fist. This fist fiercely penetrated through Yu Hua's delicate body, and the huge fist was revealed from Yu Hua's back. And right now, a water blade also appeared on Lai Gu's chest. The two of them maintained this posture, and the water blade in Yu Hua's hand actually bent. Just now, Lai Gu had indeed dissipated the water blade with his fist, but right now, the water blade and water blade merged together and pierced into Lai Gu's back. Yi Hua scolded Lai Gu inwardly. When did you become so careless? You still have the mood to speak flowery words. It has only been a few moves, and you are already injured by someone else, idiot. Yi Zizi should have been the one to fight for the battle just now. Why did Yu Hua take the initiative to fight? That was because she knew that Lai Gu was a dragon, and she also knew the character of dragons. As long as one makes good use of their character, they would naturally be able to heavily injure their opponent, just like what happened right now. Looking at how Lai Gu punched through Yu Hua, Nan Wuqi and the others were very calm and unworried. Just like what was said before, Yu Hua was made of water. You should be a bit more serious. Yu Hua said faintly. Lai Gu's expression became a bit bad. The punch that I punched just now clearly felt, as if my punch punched through water, and there wasn't that kind of punching effect at all. This woman. There is really a lot of water. Just now, Lai Gu also knew that there was danger on his back, but he wasn't in a hurry to dodge and chose to exchange injury for injury. However, he still underestimated his opponent. Lai Gu slowly retracted his fist, and a hole could be seen on Yu Hua's chest, and inside the hole was actually flowing water, and then, the water slowly fused together. F***K, this is possible? Lai Gu cried out in surprise. This feels so unreal. That's right. Yu Hua's entire body was made of water, and no matter how Lai Gu was attacked, he would be able to instantly recover. Yu Hua swung her slender hand, and under the huge inertia of the water blade, Lai Gu was flung away. Lai Gu knocked onto the golden halo, then fell onto the ground. A muffled sound rang out. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. My 7 sins Lai Gu was actually beaten down by a woman. This bastard. This time, I asked you to come here to gain face, not to lose face. Yu Hua, well fought. When Kai Yun saw that Yu Hua was able to beat down the opponent's main force with just 1 or 2 moves, he felt great in his heart as he stood on the stool and clapped his hands. Yi Hua wanted to refute, but he was unable to find the words to say. This Lai Gu. This Supreme Overlord's face is completely thrown away by you. Also, how am I supposed to break this woman's innate talent? Since it is made of water, I don't know if there will be any effect if I use fire to burn it. Yu Hua looked at Lai Gu, who was not far away, with cold eyes. The water blade in her hand lightly moved horizontally on the right side, then leaned back and said in a low voice, "Water flash." The water blade in Yu Hua's hand could be seen suddenly lengthening. The speed at which the water blade lengthened was extremely fast, to the point where no one was able to react in time. Furthermore, the water blade was aimed towards Lai Gu's head. The meaning behind it was already very clear. Lai Gu, who was lying on the ground, suddenly stretched out his arm and grabbed onto the tip of the water blade. The strong water pressure could be used as a cutting machine, and Yu Hua's water flash was not just a cutting machine, it seemed to be able to cut through anything. The water flowed through Lai Gu's palm, and the skin and flesh on Lai Gu's palm began to disappear, revealing Dragon Claw. Although it was not Lai Gu's main body, it was still a small-scale dragon claw. Soon after, the skin and flesh of Lai Gu's entire left arm completely disappeared, and the eerie white bones were exposed to the air, causing people to tremble with fear. Dragon flames. Lai Gu muttered, then suddenly raised his head and sprayed out a stream of fiery red flames. However, Yu Hua did not dodge at all and directly took the stream of dragon flames head-on. Lai Gu stood up. Although blood was flowing out from his chest that was penetrated by the dragon flames, it was not a big deal. However, Lai Gu's entire left arm had already been exposed to Lai Gu's main body, thus it should not be discovered by your wife. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.